Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. And I'm Katie Halper, and I'm here live with Leslie Lee the Third.
Hey Kay, how's it going?
Good, you?
I am doing great. I'm doing fantastic. My God, what a show we have tonight.
What a show.
I am so excited. I don't know if I've ever been more excited in my entire life
Really?
to talk to
Wow.
someone. I mean, my God.
Yeah, she's a good one.
Yes,
She's a
yes.
good one. And she had some really great chats with her already. Well, I had a really great chat with her already. And I released some of the clips. In fact, where is everyone in this? We should be like overflowing with viewers. So guys, what are you doing? Spread the word out. Everyone should be here. It should be online standing room only.
I'm even posting it on Facebook. I actually
Wow.
opened up my Facebook account and posting it.
Why not put it up? Okay, I'm not going to read the haters.
Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Leslie keeps me in shape he keeps me focused. I can't respond to them unless they pay. That's it.
Oh, then tonight. That's not even going to
no,
cut it. That's not
even. Oh no, yeah, it's not even. I mean, Rose
a hater-free
McGowan is
night.
not. Oh, it's a totally hater-free night, and Rose
Hater-free
McGowan
night.
is not going to. Like we're not even going to look at it when she's on. Look at anything hateful
Yes.
when she's on.
We ain't dealing with that.
We're not
mess.
doing that. This is a hate-free show. This is a no hate show. In fact, I got to put in some banned words. People may not like that. People may think it's problematic, but yeah. So yeah, there are definitely people in the chat who I'm not going to respond to.
It's hater-free night. Sorry, haters.
Although we got one good hater who was cheap. His name was he called me Scatter instead of Scatterbrain. He called me Scatterbrian. And that was good. It gave me and Kate Willett some good material.
Oh, that's good. Scatterbrian.
Yeah, Scatterbrian. Yeah.
Scatterbrian sounds like a teenage skater who died in like a concrete accident, right? Like
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, maybe a minor Simpsons character,
Right.
Like the legend of Scatterbrian.
Scatterbrian. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Hey, we could write that character right now. We could just write it. So what's going on with you, Leslie? How was your week? How's your life?
Oh, it's been going good. Actually, my virtual commencement is tomorrow. I'm excited about. Not tomorrow, Saturday. Excited
You mean your
about that.
commencement from grad school? Where
Yes,
you got your
graduate.
master's?
Yes. Got the cap and gown back there. Got the hat. I'm actually more happy than anything for the props. Because I feel like I can get a lot of use.
Props.
Yeah, like the cap and the gown and the hat. That's actually a very useful thing to just have in storage if you're in media. Like I can always put it on for something.
Okay, you know what I thought you meant by the props? I thought you meant the props like you'll get in life.
Oh, no.
Like the props you get from the Katie Halper show. Just from being here, basically.
No,
Just
I meant
for
actual
who you are.
physical gear.
Right, actual
gear
physical props,
that you
yeah.
can use.
Yeah. Oh my. Well, I'm so excited. So we're not going to bring this person on yet, but we have contact. And if she, by the way, guys, I'm just going to put out, this is a very fourth wall show, as people probably know, beyond the fourth wall. It should really be called the Katie Halper Show, demolishing the fourth wall. Fourth wall demolished. But if the guest who just came on comes on and stays backstage, she can fiddle with her cam, all that stuff, and then give me a thumbs up when she's ready. Okay? Okay? Just want everyone to know that. Yeah. Anyway, so guys, tell us more about why you're basically, Leslie, let's get the fanboying out of the way. Why are you a Rose McGowan fan?
We do not want to embarrass Rose, who is very modest. But I mean, Scream came out when I was in high school, and it came out in 1996. That was my first year of high school. Teen slasher horror movie. I got to see it in theaters. Could not be a more perfect cinematic experience. I can't even think of one that was ever better. And of course, Rose McGowan, huge part of that. Absolutely amazing character in that, and I have been a fan ever since.
Yeah. Also, another reason that we love her is she's really a Renaissance woman. Her album is
Oh
really
yeah,
good.
her music was
Right?
is very
It's
good.
really good. Yeah.
It's very
Planet
good.
Nine, guys. You
Yeah, I
gotta listen
really
to
like
Planet
Rose's.
Nine.
Her Rose's music's very good. She's been doing it for a while, putting out. She's one of the celebrities who does good music. It's her, Eddie Murphy, Jared Leto. Although the later 30 Seconds of Mars albums, I may disagree. You may disagree with.
Eddie Murphy and Jared Leto do
Oh,
music?
Oh, Eddie Murphy does excellent music. Eddie Murphy is a very good singer. Is a very good, very talented. He even put out
I had no
some new
idea.
stuff a couple of years ago. He put out like a reggae album and it was legit, like 100% legit. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you know who else put out a reggae song, I believe?
Who?
I think
Bernie
Bernie.
Sanders. Bernie Sanders did. Well, Rose is much more a legitimate musician than Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. No, I was
Definitely has
comparing
to-
Bernie Sanders to Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Too.
Yeah, but no, she's really really talented at that, and then she's a really good writer.
Yeah,
Like,
writer and director. Does it all?
filmmaker. Does it all.
And
I
and also has been very outspoken about issues that no one was speaking about. I remember 2 years before anyone was talking about in the mainstream news, people were talking about Me Too and Harvey Weinstein. Rose was talking about it 2 years ago, 2 years before that on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast. And I remember that, and like her, just how brave she is and how much she has spoken out. It's really quite amazing.
Brave, which is the name of her book, which is really really good. It's really well written. She's just very very artistic and talented. And she has it in the family, and she's very like open about that. I mean, that's not the thing that you're open about. Everyone, if you talented family members, no one's like closeted about that. She's open about the complexity of her family members. You know what I mean? Like that people are mixed bags, and that there's talent in places, and that there's like joy and anger. She's just very very candid about that. Talks about mental illness in her book, Brave. It's really good. I really recommend it. It's just a really good book. Yeah. It's like it's a page. It's so weird because it's actually kind of a page turner, which I guess isn't weird, but I don't think of like
a biography as
autobiography memoirs as page turners. But that one is, and it's funny and it's smart, and you feel very much like you're reading someone's like voice. Yeah, she's very authentic. What else? Great read. Buy it now. Yeah, buy it now, guys. Buy Brave. Be brave. Buy Brave. And thank you so much, Susie, for the super sticker. Is that true? Rick James gave Eddie Murphy a top 10 hit party all the time?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, party all the time. The music video. Do you want to pull?
Top 10 hit. Got it.
Do you want to pull that video up right quick if you've never heard?
I don't think
you
we
got
can. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got
the
The
man is what we're just too big. We're too Hollywood. Can't get away with it. Yeah. Okay. A request for a facilitated chat. What else? So let's just we're gonna just like start the show, and then we will, when Rose is ready, we will know, and we will let her in, and that will be the next chapter. Speaking of books. Okay, so let's talk about you're excited about your commencement. You're excited about the props, not the props you'll get like metaphysically, but actually physically.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, Susie, so supportive. Thank you, Susie. She gave you a congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much, Susie. I appreciate it.
A lot is going on this week. A couple of things happened. Terrible stuff happening in Colombia. Not that you'd ever know that, but people have been killed. There's been awful repression and state violence, and nobody is really talking about it, which is interesting because all the stuff that they always say is happening in Venezuela and Bolivia.
Yes.
So imagine all of those things are happening in Colombia. Because they are, but they're not happening in Venezuela and Bolivia. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually just looking at it, looks like they're getting on the beat like this now, like starting an hour ago. The mainstream outlets are starting to make more headlines about this. But yeah, it looks like it's been pretty quiet, but they're still called. They're not. They're still talking about unrest. This is the most common word used, not necessarily violent government repression like you would see with other countries, or you would have the name of the president in the headline saying, Maduro cracks down on protesters.
Exactly.
Instead, unrest exists. It's very
passive voice, right? Yeah. And of course, everyone knew Evo Morales' name, and no one knows this guy's name. It's Duque.
Yeah,
that's his name. Say his name in a bad way, not in the affirming way.
That's so funny. I've never even actually thought about that, but I bet if we actually go back and look at headlines and compare where these South American countries that are aligned with the U.S. versus aren't, you would find the leader's name would be used at a very high percentage more in headlines, even the New York Times and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. No one really talks about it, bothered to talk about it. And just to kind of rattle off some of the stats, which are from I've put together from various places, ranging from Democracy Now! To Common Dreams, and even the Washington Post, because sometimes you got to travel into enemy territory. So at least 37 people have died, at least, and those are the ones we know about. So it's going to be a lot higher than that. 800 have been seriously injured. 80 have been reported missing since April 28th. And this was all about an unpopular tax reform. But then it kind of, spin off. There was a spin-off, if you will. And it became about, in general, poverty and human rights abuses. And then, of course, the government's brutal response to the protests. On Monday, there was something in Cali, which is the third largest city in Colombia, and it's being called a massacre. So again, this is something that you just don't, somehow it does not make it into the news. And again, remember all these headlines, all these articles, all these Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International warnings about democracy being threatened in Bolivia because they have the nerve to punish people who oversaw massacres, right? There's none of that concern exists here.
Yeah, there's. I'm just looking at something like the Washington Post. Violence in Colombia protests escalates amid allegations of police excess. That's the headline.
That's really good. So say that again.
Violence in Colombia protests escalates amid allegations of police excess.
So here's the trick: if a headline reads the way it would read about a police murder, that's how you know it's a country that the U.S. likes, and it's a country that the U.S. probably won't refer to as a regime.
Yeah.
Right? But if it read the description of, let's say, a black person killed by the police,
yes,
that's how you know it's a country the U.S. does not like.
Yeah, it's just you're just scaling it up. You're just scaling it up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's the macro. Yeah. Micro. Yeah.
I just typed in Duque regime just to see what comes up, and it's nothing. Nothing comes up. I have an article from America's Quarterly. I'm not sure. I would assume this is more of a right-leaning mag, just from the name. 5 challenges facing Ivan Duque at his presidency's halfway point. So they're very concerned about the challenges he's facing with this unrest that is happening. Or maybe that's too strong a word. Maybe happening is too strong a word. Yeah. That is existing.
Yeah, existing. That may be
in his country. That may be existing in his country. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I think that American Quarterly is kind of a lib. I think it's kind of a status. Standard issue lib thing, which is of course not good at all when you're talking about the Americas. I believe
the
true.
cover. Oh my God,
what?
The cover. Actually, I'm not sure if this is a liberal magazine because this cover. I think I have to share this actually because this is wild. This is one of the most wild covers I've ever seen. Oh my God. All right, let me see.
Someone said Duque is only a puppet, and the real, I guess, the real fat authoritarian is Uribe, which is true. Uribe is really, really, really bad. But guys, give him time. Give Duque time.
All right, so here's this. Look at this. I'm sharing it now, so if you can add it to the screen, Katie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. What is this? Yeah.
Guess who's having a good pandemic? How COVID-19 is changing organized crime.
Whoa. That has like a broken Windows feel to it.
Oh my God, that's a wild cover. That's one of the most. Wow.
Yeah.
That's just
very charged.
That's Willie Horton territory.
Willie Horton.
That is Willie Horton territory right there with that cover.
Guillermo Horton. As
and
it would be in Spanish. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the article, and it is pushing for international cooperation. It's a 5-paragraph article too, but it's pushing for more cooperation between international police agencies to stop the cartels and drug trafficking.
Right.
So,
but sadly, that is kind of a lib position.
Yeah.
I don't know, when it comes to the Americas, it gets kind of blurred when it comes to like foreign policy. If someone can look that up, guys, let us know. American Quarterly, is it like Brookings Institute, or is it like Cato Institute, or is it like Project for the New American Century? So I'm giving you 3 options: neocon, libertarian, or liberal. Okay, because it's obviously not leftist. For leftists, we'd go to like what, Madre or CISPIS. Does that even still exist? International policy thing with or the Quincy Institute.
Yeah. So like the whole issue is about like how the cartel, like scaring people about the cartels, and how all the nations in the Americas need to get together and fight the cartels during the pandemic. I would possibly think that it would be a better idea if all the nations in America got together to fight COVID-19. I think that would be the number one thing you're trying to do, the big takeaway. But apparently, they decided. Katie, it's just so because you know a lot more about all these little think tanks and magazines than I do, but it's just amazing that there is so much money floating around for this garbage to get published.
Yeah, we got to. I got to get Ron Kalick and Max Blumenthal and all these other canceled people onto the show. They can give us like a quiz. They can give us the shorthand on all these fabulous NGOs and think tanks. Yeah. And if Rose is ready.
Thank you, English Goddess, for the super chat.
Yes, thank you, English Goddess. Thank you. Just giving a shout out to Rose, big time. So if Rose is ready, she will let me know with a thumbs up, or she can send me a private message. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Don't you guys like the suspense? You don't really know who I'm talking to. Well, you probably know who I'm talking to, but you don't know if I'm actually making contact. It's like if a tree falls and it isn't heard by anyone, doesn't really make a sound. You know that old riddle, ye old riddle. Yeah. What else is going on? People are mad at Bernie Sanders. I'm not really. You and I probably have slightly different takes on this, and I'm not just saying that because obviously I love me some Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, but I'm not so mad at Bernie, but I am mad at his team, and also like the real key fact is like Liz Cheney is like absolutely awful monster, and the Cheney family should,
of course, the whole Cheney
should be
family.
Like sent to be judged by the Iraqi people. The whole family.
I agree.
All
they should have. I mean, honestly, the thrown shoe should be like the appetizer. Like they all need to have a shoe thrown at them.
Whatever they want to do to them, we should send them back. We just send them back. Send them there.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Do you want to do that to the Iraqi people, though?
I know, right? Like, we're just putting the problem.
Like they've gone through enough.
It's our fault. Yeah,
it's our fault.
They should be our problem.
It's up to them. You know what? We'll throw it to them. They can vote by referendum. If they think it would be cathartic to deal with the Cheney family, then by all means.
Yeah, by all means. Yes.
Yeah. A very good lesbian pulp erotica novel. Do you know about this? It's called Sisters.
Oh, wait, no, I didn't hear. You froze for a second. I didn't hear the first part. I just heard the end with lesbian erotica novel, which is not what I was expecting you were going to say.
From Lynn Cheney.
Lynn Cheney. Okay.
Lynn Cheney. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're going to pause that, and I'll do a reading of it, and it's called Sisters. And it's not erotica. It's suggestive. It definitely has, like, a strong subtext. But there's
Oh, I see. Oh, I'm looking
yeah,
this up. This is like
it's a
before
frontier. It's a
they got
frontier story.
famous.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
before. Oh,
yeah.
wow, I didn't know
So
she was a novelist.
yeah, I know. You can't. It's not in print anymore. Not surprisingly. But you know what? Speaking of actually good writers, unlike Lynn Cheney, which can you imagine if she actually is a lesbian and she's married to Dick Cheney? Like it's already such a punishment to be married to Dick Cheney, and then if on top of it there's not even the possibility for like, well, who knows? She could be on the spectrum, so I'm not going to judge that. I'll just judge her for being married to Dick Cheney
Yes.
in itself. All right, so guys, speaking of really good writers, so excited to be bringing into the studio the inimitable, the fire crackering, fire branding, Rose McGowan, writer, filmmaker, musician, activist. Boom. Okay. Hi, Rose. How are you?
How are you?
Hi. How are you?
Good. You?
Good. You?
Are you hearing an echo? Should I put on headphones?
Yes, please. Okay. Headphones. Yes. You see, she is. It's her background doing music. Look at her whole setup. She knew the question to ask. As a musician, she knew. Should I wear headphones? A lot of other people wouldn't know where to start.
Oh, that is a big.
I would. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, love. Hi, I'm Rose Leslie Lee.
Oh, Rose. I've known you. I feel like I've known you all my life almost, but it's so nice to talk to you. I'm just so excited. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm thrilled to be here. How do these work? Let me see. No. Where's your little sitch? So I was listening to the Columbias. Oh, are people hearing my echo? Should I shut up until?
Actually, they're not.
They're not anymore. They're not anymore.
But headphones would still be great. But they don't hear it when you talk. But if it's gonna be, but it's okay. We can, look.
I figured it out. I'm not that dumb. Let me put my.
It's not dumb. It's like I'm very bad at tech stuff.
No,
I'm
not
technologically oriented. Then you may have to go back in and do the.
No, I have to turn on my headphones. That would also be.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, guys, look at this. Where else do you see this? But the Katie Halper Show.
Yeah.
You know why? Because to quote Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yes.
We'll do it live. Yeah.
External headphones. Output device. Sound preferences?
Yeah. You just want to select the headphones. And if your headphones are plugged into your laptop, then you would select headphones. But if they're plugged into your mic, you would select the mic. The mic brand.
They're not plugged into the mic. The mic actually is not working. StreamYard is also only letting me stream at 720p. And it's not letting my nice mic do this. So I'm stuck using the low G situation. Mic, not mic. I'm using the MacBook Pro, which says it is professional grade. But I'm not reading.
Yeah. Okay. So Brad is So you're seen and heard, even though not the quality we would like.
Oh, thank you for that. I've wanted to hear that my whole life.
Yeah, we see you. We hear you. We are bearing witness to tech difficulties, and yeah,
I am a tech difficult. I am a tech difficult. Actually, now that you think about it, bit of a thorn in the tech side, and it texts
you
right
are.
Back
You're a tech challenger. You are actually. So this is the
bottom
perfect
of your
entry.
Internet.
The perfect entry.
Mic. I see.
Yeah, and it's the StreamYard thing where you choose the preferences as opposed to.
But it really, it's a bummer that it doesn't.
It doesn't do the
so
cam mic.
Should I have the input through my headphones?
The input, well, if you're in, so the thing you're doing, the setting is within StreamYard, right? You're going to, it's like you enter, if you exit and enter again.
I got it.
Okay.
I think I got it. Do I have it?
All right. Hello. Can you hear us?
What?
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Yeah. As I think it sounds
I'm
okay.
very proud of myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds great. Awesome. Sounds great. Looks great. I like there's like a lit pumpkin behind you.
I was busy putting like this lighting. I'll get rid of that. I was busy putting this lighting thing here, and I forgot about the audio because lights are sometimes lights are more exciting than audio. So I was listening to you talk about Columbia. Go it. At the bottom of it, that what I'm hearing from like what I ferreted out trying to find an actual news source that does in fact cover this in a way that's not like disseminated information by government PR, et cetera, is that people are fucking hungry. People are really hungry and they're scared, and they've been and that like the truest thing I've been able to find is a woman protester just saying, women, we're selling food on the streets now, we're doing anything we can, and we are hungry and we're scared, and I can't pay my rent. And I think that might be at the heart of what the fuck is going on in Colombia. That is not like the tax,
right,
changing the president, or him changing his stance on the tax law is not going to quell these protests, because people are hungry. And I think more and more countries. But it was interesting your point about Venezuela and Bolivia. And do you think that's CIA controlled because we don't want it destabilized, but unless we're doing the destabilization?
That's our lane. Yeah. No, I mean, I think we know, people have made it clear, like in the media and in the U.S. government, that they are, they don't want, we already have Guaido, that little nerdy kid. He's just a herb. I don't know if you guys know that word, but he's just the definition of a herb.
Herb, yes.
Yeah, and he's
is a herb a Karen?
A herb is like a male. What?
How
would you define
a herb is just kind of like a nerd.
A
like
nerd.
A nerd. Maybe a nerdlinger. Maybe a
like
nerdlinger. Like
a nerdlinger.
Yeah, like an extra, like a super level of nerd.
Yeah.
He's like nerd squared.
Yeah.
Yes.
He checks all the nerd in the dictionary. Nerd would be them.
Be Guaido. Yeah. Yeah. So like
Herb.
the U.S. government, Herbie. What is it? Herbie who's the Herbie? Is there a car named Herbie? Well, there's also a Guaido.
There was a movie called Herbie.
The Love Bug.
Herbie the Love Bug. So this guy is Herbie.
Lindsay Lohan redo that movie? I have a vague feeling something like that.
Did she? Yeah.
I vaguely remember orange cars. Anyway, go back.
Well, we should actually do a like a graphic that shows Juan Guaido as Herbie the hate bug. But yeah, the U.S. I mean, they've invited like both parties embrace him. He's like the fake. He's like the shadow loser wannabe president of Venezuela.
So he's their puppet.
Yeah, but he's not even in power. It's pathetic. Puppet. Yeah, and they like tried to take over the embassy, but where they didn't have any legal standing because they were not elected. But yeah, so I mean, and then the media has totally distorted what happened in Bolivia, and you even have like
if it covers it, because honestly, in the U.S. that's not really a thing. My experience in the U.S. is that, and then, growing up overseas and then going back overseas regularly, and then living, in Europe again or in India, they cover weather from other places. They have vague acknowledgement that other things happen, but I think. The MSM is in lockstep with CIA, DOD, and the Pentagon in not wanting this news out to the general public, and thus keeping Americans solely America focused and solely focused on attacking each other.
Yes, and then to the
but
extent
there's a lot of shit going down.
Yeah,
worldwide.
Yeah, and then to the extent, I mean, they do definitely have these bad guys, right? Like Evo Morales and Maduro, and before that Chavez, who they tried to overthrow again and again. And it's funny, Rose, you and I were talking about this in the other interview that we did, the pre-taped one, and how like it's very easy to sound like a conspiracy theorist because the reality is that there are a lot of conspiracies. Like
I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. I'm like, hey, today was Thursday. What's up?
Yeah. Yeah, truth and your life was
fact is fact.
And we know, like, again, like Fidel Castro survived, like, how many attempts on his life? Like 60 something. And that's like in the the CIA. I know, he was really.
That guy was like a punk. Like, but not, really I'm not like a punk bitch, but like, right. Maybe to some, but like, what a punk rocker. That guy survived. That's incredible. Yeah. Well done you, Fidel Castro, for surviving.
Someone gave him a tortoise once, like a turtle, like as a pet. And tortoises live like 100 or something years, right? So he was like, I don't want to get attached to it just so it dies on me.
My favorite moment with Chavez was when he took the stage. I think it was the United Nations.
Yes.
And he went up and he said, you'll have to play the clip. It was a genius thing. He went up and was talking about, all right, let me talk, war criminal George Bush too. And he gets up and he said something to the effect of like, the devil is just standing here, or I'm standing where the devil stood. It's epic.
Yeah.
Respect. Even if he's a fucker and everyone hates him, or at least half. I mean, that's the thing, you know, when we think of countries, I think generally people, just regular people, when we think of other countries and they have a president, it's almost like you kind of assume everyone likes that president or that dictator or that, you know, not if it's a dictator, usually like you're aware certainly that there's a faction that is way against this. But I think our dictators are elected dictators, you know, in the U.S. and in other capitalist societies are very much doing. I mean, I'm like, when is Colombia going to happen in the U.S.? When is that coming? Because people, how are they going to pay their rent? How are, you know, I have to share an experience if it's okay.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I kind of understand survivor's guilt more because I only had 5 weeks of lockdown, and it was a bit over a year ago. I live a very different experience than I think most people on the planet at this moment. Not just because I'm in a cute studio with light up things, just in terms of being able to go outside.
Right.
Being able to live. I haven't earned any money this year, but I have just enough to get by for like another year or two. And working that out, I've always had my worth placed on me by powerful men in Hollywood. So having to figure that out, going from the product to being your own company in a way is an interesting thing. But I just, what's going on to the mental health of others out there, I can only relate 5 weeks to, and that this is the mind fuck on a global scale that's going on, and the repercussions that the mainstream media is not covering. I mean, I even think about animals, all these people that have adopted pets and dogs. Once they start going out again, what's going to happen? All these animals are going to develop severe separation anxiety, and you're going to have an overflow in the pound, you know, in the rescue centers. No. People that's tossing awful. Them. There's no way. They're thought animals have to be integrated with the world, and they haven't been. So I mean, there's levels and levels and levels to this situation that are, you know, and then obviously just to extend my sympathies to people that have lost people from COVID and have struggled with it. I had it not this February, but the one before, but it is, yeah, I had it like 2 weeks. I knew about it from Wuhan, not this last October, but the one before. So I was very surprised to hear all the politicians say that it was in March when they really discovered COVID. I'm like, maybe you should just watch international news. I don't know. Other places, China.
Besides weather,
stuff like that. Besides, not even the weather, just something. Something that I'm like, how do I know about coronavirus in Wuhan? You know, it was actually my friend in Italy is a designer, and she told me pre everybody knowing about COVID in March, the politicians anyway, that most of the people that were doing the hardware for her designs for her fashion design company in Italy come from the Wuhan province. And so I think when Wuhan opened up, the business resumed in Italy, and that just smacked it down, you know. But I live in Mexico and have for over a year, gratefully. And it's strange, you know. I do feel a little bit like I'm talking about things and feeling things, but I'm not. I have been desperate in my life. I have been homeless. I have been on food stamps. I have been in domestic violence situations, you know, a lot of stuff. But just right now at this moment, it does have, I'm rattling the fuck on. I'm sorry, Casey, helps you talk now.
No, and I, not at all.
But I just feel like if you're going to talk about COVID, since we didn't know what we were going to talk about, I was like, I have to be honest. I don't have the same experience. It's conjecture at this point.
Even I don't, and I feel very guilty. I've expressed this before. Like, I'm not in the city. I'm not where I usually live. And I feel like it's intense because I'm not seeing as many people as I usually do, and I'm with my parents and like there are dogs here, and I'm very, very happy and lucky. But it's also weird. But
It's weird.
it's weird, but it's not weird in the way I feel a little ridiculous.
It's not
kind
weird
of.
that at the moment I have to go out and try to get my voice heard because I don't have fucking food because my government's fucked me over, like in Colombia, and for decades not taking care of it. I mean, I understand there are super big mitigating circumstances with Latin American countries and the geopolitics that I am not certainly declaring myself to be an expert on, but from years of kind of cash studying, CIA propaganda, media propaganda, Hollywood propaganda,
Right.
and the destabilization of these different Latin American countries and Africa, and wondering, all the countries in Africa, essentially, like practically almost all of them, who's gaining from their in India, who's gaining from their
Right.
destabilization, and it's not them.
Yeah.
So you got to look at who is.
Yeah, and actually, so the thing I was saying before is yes, what Chavez said, and it was hilarious, was it smells like sulfur. After he spoke after George W. Bush, and he was like, "Huele a azufre." It smells like sulfur. The devil has been here. It was really good. Yeah.
Huele a azufre.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, what do you want? There's so many things that you can talk about. You can talk about how the Dems are a cult and Republicans are a cult. You can talk about Me Too. You can talk about how much Alyssa Milano sucks. You can talk about the stuff that you talk about.
She really does suck.
She
Man,
really does
I had to
suck.
keep that shit under wraps for so many years to not ruin people's childhoods. And I honestly held on for as long as I could, but no, not my kind of person. And just not, and it was, when a lot of people on the right, and hopefully a lot of people on the left, although I've not heard it voiced, despise Hollywood and the people in it for being false virtue signalers and who don't behave that way in real life at all towards people that are their underlings.
Right.
And are, for me, there was always going to be, I was discovered, so I don't and never did develop that hunger for fame. Right. And being on camera has always been like, I prefer being behind it, honestly. But the amount
you
of
always want a
dipshits.
reluctant administrator. It's like a similar principle. You want a reluctant administrator, like someone who doesn't, who gets discovered. You're going to be a different quality of, no disrespect to people who go out there and search for it, but it's a different
There
type
are
of
some
person.
great thespians out there, and they fully earn the word thespians. Right. I was, I don't know what I could have been really, because, and I think I would have reached the same conclusion that I would much rather speak for myself than have a man's words come out of my mouth with their perception of what I could be, and to be sold as a product is singularly pretty gross, to be honest with you. And but a lot of people trade that because there is a fame fever. There's a weird fucking thing that overtakes a lot of them in Hollywood and around. There is a difference in, like the UK. I'm sure some of them have it, but overall it's not. They do study a lot harder. I went to one acting class. Right. I was like, I got so freaked out by the actors around me, but it was more like a fame crave. Because the teacher introduced me as like someone who just done their first film that was discovered, and 2 weeks later starring in a movie, which doesn't happen. Right. But it was what it was. I was like, sweet, I can pay my rent and not be homeless for the second time.
Yeah.
So mine was purely mercenary. Really. I just happened to be weirdly good at it. But I know I could have been fucking great if I'd not been blacklisted and assaulted and tortured psychologically, and by not just Weinstein, but most of the people there. And it was working with Alyssa Milano. It was just like, come on, you don't have to be a dick. Right. And it's just embarrassing. There is an obtuseness, a willful obtuseness, and a complete out of touch with the world reality, and acting as if you're empathetic does not mean you are. And
Yes.
acting as if you're intelligent does not mean that you are. It
Right.
just means that you might be a bad actor.
Yeah, I think she pulls off the empathy more than the intelligence, and I don't think she's empathetic. So that's kind of my diplomatic way of saying
Oh
that
no, I think
she.
she's. I think she. I know her, and my judgment would be. I'm going to get a lot of shit for saying this, but somewhere on the sociopath scale, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't care. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I have a
All right.
podcast coming out. I just was why I'm in the studio. It's called The Brave Truth, and you'll get little bum nuts like that from
Right.
me.
I like
I'm
it.
gonna get in a lot of trouble. People be like, "How dare you?" Ah, fuck it, man. I'm talking about two separate realities. Just because, and let me reassure all the Charmed fans out there. Please give me a second to do that. My character loved her character.
Right. That's how good an
That
actor
was
you
my
are.
job, and I was good at it.
Right.
I have to confess, the only times I couldn't is if my character had to say "I love you." I would cross my fingers and put it under my butt. That's the truth of that situation. There was one step too far that I could not act my way through, and that was that. But I hold it down. I refuse to. I've had really dramatic, extreme situations happen to me in my life. I don't need to manufacture bullshit situations and problems to feel like I am existing and feeling, and or using other people's pains and realities to maybe, it's like when a serial killer kills an animal to see if they can feel something. Boy, that was dark.
No, but
I actually
But
didn't think it was dark. It actually made me flash back to Nip Tuck because you got killed by a
oh yeah, I
serial
was on
killer.
that. Yeah. That was,
I mean-
I accidentally dropped a leech on a lady's face, but she had bandages over her eyes in the scene, so she could see that a leech was now stuck to her throat and chin because of me. Oops.
wow.
It was alive.
Wow. It's funny because this is so perfect. This is like such a perfect Milano anecdote, which is that her first episode, her show is called "Sorry Not Sorry," which is like the most.
That's the most candid she's ever been.
Yes, exactly. It's such a Karenish, entitled Karenish name.
I think it's truthful for her.
Yeah, extreme. She's a totally she's being a truth teller. And her first guest, guys, you know who her first guest was on Sorry Not Sorry?
It was Biden, wasn't it?
Joe Biden, yeah.
And right after like Tara Reid.
It was right. It was after the round of like
it was
Lucy
right.
Flores, like
that's
those
what
stories about how
that's
all these
right.
people were talking about how inappropriate he was. So Tara Reid had not yet come forward with that story, but with the allegations of actual sexual assault. But he had, I mean, it was like he was well known at that point for being inappropriate with women. So the fact that you would just have a podcast called Sorry Not Sorry, and your first guest would be Joe Biden, and with Tarana Burke, she was the other guest, which I just thought was not really fair to Tarana Burke.
Well, Tarana has a choice in the matter. She's not a victim here. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
She has freedom. She has personal choice. She didn't all of a sudden get there by not knowing who Alyssa Milano was. Okay.
Right.
Me Too is a communication tool. I've said that a million times. And I wish, honestly, wish to God Toronto would own that part of it. Like, that is what you've done for the world. It was not a movement. It's a communication tool. The media stupidly went with movement. Like, yeah, there's thousands of women with pitchforks after powerful men. Like, no, it's a communication tool. That has never happened before. And I really get annoyed when that doesn't get its honorific, because it should. You can now be somewhere and be talking to somebody and something comes up, or you're like, me too, on some scale, the depth of that pain. Before, you had to be drunk at a party, maybe say something to your best friend and feel like shit the next day and try to shove it back down so you can go about your day. That is the huge achievement. And honestly, it does make me upset with either people around Toronto or Toronto herself, because that is what to own.
So you're saying that sorry, I cut you off.
I'm saying it should, like, it is literally a massive communication tool that has in history not existed.
So you mean a good way? You're not saying like it's a PR
No,
scam.
this is
You're saying like
fucking great.
an expression tool. Got it. Communication tool that way. That's
I can
interesting.
say, did this happen to you? Me too.
Right.
How old are you? 9, 13. I now know the scope, and we can share this experience without having to re-traumatize ourselves in a way, you know, unless we decide to go there and go through it, to work through it. And I wish it does. It pisses me off that that's not owned. That the mainstream narrative, that's a bullshit Hollywood narrative. You know, and Hollywood, by the way, did a brilliant fucking job. So who's behind this Biden bullshit, Alyssa stuff, all this crap? Is her husband, David Bugliari, at the time was a bigwig at CIA. And
agency, right?
Creative Artists Agency. I once tweeted about CIA. I think I called them human traffickers, but I'm pretty sure it was the Canadian Automobile Association.
Oh, you tag them?
Yeah, I'm really good about that.
I'm sure that traffickers have used Canadian automobiles.
No, I don't think.
Unfortunately,
well, that's probably true. Okay, fair enough. You
damn human traffickers. The odds. Yeah, what are the odds?
You've probably sent tow trucks to traffickers, Canadian Automobile Association.
Yeah.
Damn it, you have done damage. So her husband worked with Joe Biden, and they all there with Gross SDK Knickerbocker, which is like a power play PR, really like hit squad, Anita Dunn. They formed Times Up, and what they did that I thought was grotesque and yet brilliant. I was like, these motherfuckers. When they did the whole black dress stunt, but that wasn't it. That was just stupid. Yeah, thanks for having a dance later on in your black dresses while nodding to mine and so many's rape at the hands of your demigod. But aside from that, what they did was they each one took an activist, mostly of color, to be their dates at the Oscars or Golden Globes, whatever the fuck it was, or it was the whole award season. So Tarana Burke is paraded around by Hollywood, and with a fundamental misunderstanding of her greatness, but using it as optics so they can check the two boxes, because it's gross. That is how they are. That is how they think. Literally how they think. We can't hire another Indian woman. We just hired an Indian. Like they think that's their logic, or like it's not reviewing themselves and seeing where their racism or their separatism lies. And going through the threads of that, it's just like, as long as it doesn't look like it, It is not it, which we all know is bullshit. So her husband then now, actually, interestingly enough, went on to lead, I think is leading at some kind of agency that's backed by one of Trump's major financiers or funders, donors. And, you know, but there's no problem with that. She'll still shill for Biden. She'll still shill for, you know, and her bad acting at the Kavanaugh hearings. I was annoyed because actually it was one of the writers from the New York Times, Megan, who worked on the story. No. On the Harvey Weinstein story. I just am blanking out. Sorry, but anyway, she texted me. She said, "Are you a Kavanaugh hearing?" She mistook Alyssa for me.
Oh,
that's violence.
Yeah. So that's okay, because the last thing I ever texted to Megan was, "You are the Gwyneth Paltrow variety of feminist." Savage.
And what does that mean?
Exactly what it sounds like.
Like
to me, that's pretty clear.
Like she's just
just fake.
Goop feminist, yeah.
Just ew. I'm not saying she's a nasty person or horrible person. I don't know her, but I have I lived amongst these people for so very long.
Yeah, by the way.
And people always act like I'm commenting it from the bleachers like them. I'm like, bitch, I had to endure this shit. I had to endure these bitches sitting next to me at luncheons and turning their backs on me lest they catch what I had, which would be blacklisting.
Right. By the way, just to refer to what you were saying, reading at the, I don't like this site, but I'll just read it, at the Daily Beast, Dave Bugliari, a super agent representing Bradley Cooper and others, has started a Hollywood management firm with hedge funder and big-time Trump backer Steve Cohen. So
it's good to have morals.
Yeah, mazel tov.
Whatever they are.
Alyssa, yeah.
Stick to
Oh,
what
look
you
at
believe.
this. This is funny. And then see here, Alyssa, you guys can see, right? I'm sharing my screen.
Yes.
Alyssa Milano, the entire GOP should be tried for treason. Well, if that's true, you
Trump
are in
knew
bed.
what? What was she saying? Trump knew what?
Trump knew vote blue. What? I don't know what that means even. What did he know? When is this from? September 9th,
September
2020.
9th.
So what was that a reference
Yeah,
to?
I tweeted about it, but because I'm shadow banned on Twitter, out of like 1 million followers, basically, it got like 123 likes, which I think might be a statistical impossibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
Jack. I love fucking with him. It makes me laugh.
it's absolutely that because our co-host Jack Allison talked in the past. He's been talking about the SB Knickerbocker stuff.
Yeah, you gotta go in there
for months. We've been
no, they're dark.
SDK.
They're really dark.
Yeah, he's really was like on top of that. I guess because he worked there. Like, I mean, not there, but he was working in Hollywood.
He worked. So Jack used to work for Jimmy Kimmel, and he quit Hollywood for similar reasons because he got tired of so he gave up his comedy writing.
He was nasty to me when I did a show. He was nasty.
Not unusual. Not
the very first thing he said out of his mouth to me. I don't remember what it was, but it was really fucking rude and sexist. So that guy can eat a dick too.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. SDK Knickerbocker.
Oh yeah, just the fact.
Note.
Yeah, no, that's a good side note. Just the fact that you have this Me Too movement, then it becomes Time's Up, which is which is a production by CAA, and we've been talking about this on Struggle Session since it started. And like when it was happening in real time, we were like, wait a minute, these is the same agency that would send actresses to Harvey Weinstein starting.
You're so right. I accused them of human trafficking often and repeatedly when every tweet I was tweeting was going like viral globally for quite a long time. After the New York Times and New Yorker articles, outing that lovely monster. And it really, it was... That period was intense, man. That period was intense. And they are human traffickers, and that all the other agencies are too, trust, but they were the worst offenders. And I know creative artist agency. Yeah, you're creative with sending a young girl what they call a pocket client. Basically, they meet some girl at a bar or somewhere and tell her they'll represent them. Or just a low-level actress that it's called a pocket client. They won't sign them because the board or whoever votes won't approve it. I was so furious one time without my idea. My ex went to CAA and begged them to sign me, and they turned me down. I'm like, I would never have submitted myself to their approval or disapproval. I find them repulsive. I know someone that worked for them as an agent, this guy Brandon, and he left because he was like, it's a fucking cult. I was on a retreat. I was like, this can't be my reality. This can't be my life. These people can't be it. And when we went like during some fireside campsite at some, multi-million-dollar hotel where they're all getting honest as agents with each other. You human traffic, I human traffic.
Right.
Woo!
Me too.
It's
the Me Too. The anti-Me Too.
Me too. Yeah, it's the flip Me Too, right? Jesus Christ. Dark. So they gave him, what they did is they stood him up in front of everybody when he started crying and said, I want to leave the agency. They gave him a Superman cape to wear for that week, that he had to wear all week, emblazoned with the Superman logo with CAA on it. Yeah. To keep him.
Wow.
That's who you're dealing with.
It would have worked on Leslie. He likes the props.
Yeah, well, I can maybe try to get one for you if he still has it. We can burn it in effigy. How about that? So, Leslie, they're dark. What have you been saying about them? Your information is correct.
Yeah, well, it's actually foolish for me to bring it up because I'm realizing now the whole reason I'm on this beat and have been on this beat since I started my show was because of you. Because I heard you on Bret Easton Ellis's podcast
That was
years
before the news broke.
Yes, before any news, and you didn't give a name, but you told your story and the horrible things that happened to you. And I remember people kind of reporting on it and being like, "We don't know about this. This seems kind of extreme." Turns out it was just a drop in the bucket. It's sad of the whole thing. Obviously, incredibly horrible what happened to you, but there was so much bigger and worse than that, and it was just you really spoke out before anyone else was, and you talked about the fact that you were being blacklisted, like I think at the time, and like nobody came along and
Crickets.
embraced you. Yeah, were crickets really about it.
We all know he raped you, but we're going to double down on his enforcement of your punishment because we're good people. But make sure we get on our stupid award shows. Oh, we should talk about that douchebaggery.
Yeah.
God bless them. I actually felt sorry for them. I saw some clips. This is a healing achievement for me. I did not and was not aware it was the Oscars until I think either the day after or right. I was like, oh, normally when I had to live in Hollywood or, because that's the party line you get, you have to live there. It was like a 5-month circle jerk, I would say, of award season. It goes on. It's like a Super Bowl where they're filleting each other for their greatness in evening gowns and tuxedos. And they do maybe like 3.5 months of actual work in the actual year. Not the, directors, writers, this and that per se, but the business side of it. It is literally one of the dumbest businesses. They leave so much money on the table. They're so stupid. And the work ethic is shite. Like just in nil, right? By and large. I'm sure there's some OCD ones that are like, I'm in it, but nobody else is. And, oh, we can't do anything at Sundance. I'm like, so the entire town's at Sundance. Oh, we can't do anything. It's this, and that's pretty much monthly. And then there's the 4.5 month award season, which it's interesting to watch the ones that are formed differently, the Europeans, the South Africans, the wherever, in the Chinese, whoever's getting up there and their encounter. I always like watching their dissonance that like on a stage in this strange disreality that they know because they grew up on the outside is pretty much bullshit. And the other part of it, when people get up and cry, I'm like, why? You hate everybody in that room. You know them all. That's the agent that fucked you over and fucked you when you're 12. That's the Academy voter that said you'd never make it because your teeth aren't movie star teeth. That's who they're crying about their approbation and approval. There's always like, can we just talk about like reality for a second? There's nothing wrong with them getting together and having a party to celebrate their art and their craft. Fuck no. But maybe it shouldn't be televised.
Agree. We have a episode called "Cancel the Oscars." You don't have to see. It's the industry awards.
It's bullshit. It was started without cameras. Obviously, it was started just to sell tickets for movies. Obviously, that was the dominant. But you have to wonder why America's #1 export. Listed export, I'm not talking about bombs or arms or drugs, but the listed export is the Hollywood, and yet there's zero government oversight in any way. Why is that? Could it be because they're lockstep with, DC?
Yeah. So you haven't been in the well, I would say the modern Hollywood, it's the superhero movies, right? And they're all working directly with the military on most of these things. You look at Captain Marvel, where they did ads with the Air Force, like telling young girls you need to get in the military like Captain Marvel.
It's something deeply. They've been doing this since the beginning, and this is they had mandates. From not earliest Hollywood, when women who started it actually. First, Alice Guy Blaché directed the first motion picture, but they put D.W. Griffith, that nice racist who did Birth of a Nation's name on her film until she was finally cleared and honored with it being her film. But once Wall Street Boys came in and turned it into essentially what it's become, there were halcyon great years in Hollywood, but that was, I think, primarily because the directors, the writers, there was so much influx from Eastern Europe. Trying to get away from World War II. So it was actually interesting. Their sugary Hollywood
Holocaust.
and their darkness and their and what they were processing really made for some fucking amazing film, obviously. But since then, it's just become watered down. So what we have now, which is basically soda on a screen, you know.
Yeah.
And I've never watched these movies. I have a weird, like, I honestly have never seen any Star Wars. I came to the country. I came to the U.S. after the first one or the second one had been out for a while, and I just we watched like classic black and white films growing up, really, like with
Me
my dad.
too.
I did. It's the best.
Yeah.
It keeps. But I have like a weird Star Wars indoctrination theory. I don't know what it is. I just don't want to see it because I feel like that, which is a precursor, obviously, and I'm sure a lot better, maybe or not, than the Marvel movies. But there's something about some mass brainwashing that happened with that, because that is like the number one movie that pretty much everybody's seen, and then everybody has these kind of, there's something strange. I don't know what I haven't put my finger on it yet, people, but I'm working on it. I'll get back to you.
Oh.
You know, David Sirota wrote an article back in 2011, and it was at the Washington Post. It was an op-ed called 25 Years Later, How Top Gun Made America Love War. And sorry to everyone if you already know this, but I didn't know this because I don't watch. I'm not in a judgmental way. I just don't really like movies like Top Gun. So Americans are souring on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The military budget is under siege as Congress looks for spending to cut, and the Army is reporting record suicide rates among soldiers. So what?
And rapes.
Yeah. So who does? Which I hate. I hate the way they call them scandals. That's another issue. The conflating of scandal like affairs with rape. But so who does the Pentagon enlist for help in such painful circumstances? Hollywood. And then he talks about how the Army negotiated the deal with the producers of X-Men, backing it up with ads telling potential recruits that they could live out superhero fantasies on real-life battlefields. Then, in recent days, word leaked that the White House has been working with Oscar-winning director Catherine Bigelow on an election year film chronicling the operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Zero Dark 30.
Dark 30.
But this is before Bezos owned the Post, am I right?
When did he take? This is in 2011.
Yeah, he didn't own them.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. So freedom of the press.
Yeah, and so then he goes back to he says a country questioning its overall military posture and a military establishment engaging in a counter campaign for hearts and minds. If this feels like deja vu, that's because it's taking place on the 25th anniversary of the release of Top Gun, that Jerry Bruckheimer blockbuster made in collaboration with the Pentagon. Came out in the mid-'80s when polls showed many Americans doubts about the post-Vietnam military.
I was there, Katie. I went to that movie.
Really?
And I'm older than you. And I went, and it is everything you were saying. And I remember, and my brother is a fighter pilot. He flies F-16s in the Air Force and looks remarkably like Tom Cruise and had his picture on as well. So, you know, direct effect. And that brother doesn't talk to me because I'm just too weird for him. So,
wow.
Cults.
Is that the...
I'm incredibly proud of him. He has a PhD. He rewrote like the manual for Italian-American wartime relations, and he's a genius. And obviously it's beat. But
is
the realest text I ever...
House?
No, that was my older brother with me.
Okay.
No. He's a chef. No, my youngest brother definitely was beyond influenced by Top Gun. And I have a suspicion, because Top Gun 2 was supposed to be released quite a few months ago, that the fucking military and the DOD and the Pentagon and everybody, they're pissed off. Obviously, COVID has really put a wrench into the release plans, because you've got to staff your offices before you go to war.
Yes.
So their upcoming, what they're planning, this is their timeline for staffing the military, for getting their grunts. Be all you can be.
Well, so this is interesting, because what you just said about your brother kind of like bears this out, right? It's an example of this. So the movie's celebration, going back to Top Gun, of sweatshine martial machismo generated $344 million at the box office and proved to be a major force in resuscitating the military's image. Not only did enlistment spike when Top Gun was released, and not only did the Navy set up recruitment tables at theaters playing the movie, but polls soon showed rising confidence in the military. which is really interesting. And they also like messed with the script, I believe. Yes.
Oh, they always do. If you even in a comedy mention CIA, they have approval.
Right. So crazy.
And you tit for tat. You put something good about us, then we'll let you use this.
Right.
But they also have, we need to turn the tide. This is our, you notice how Hollywood has like, okay, now we have Russian bad guys. Now we have Ukrainian bad guys. Now we have Mexican bad guys. And they go in waves of who gets to be the bad guys, who gets killed first, right?
China
Black people, it became not PC to do that. So they moved on to other parts of the world largely. But depending on the type of movie, but the ones that had like military interference and were definite propaganda. But even it goes to like, I flipped on something a while ago and there was like a grandfather Zooming with his granddaughter. And the very last thing I was like, that is total programming. And that is dictated by somebody else writing that script. And it was some family drama and it had just come out. I don't know what it is. The grandfather leans in and says, now make sure you tell your mom she needs to stay home and prove she loves you, okay? Have a good night, sweetheart. Bye-bye. I mean, it's as quick as that. Like, let's get, like what they did in Hollywood after, and believe me, the government and the military is deeply enmeshed in this. After World War II, where women for the first time were like, holy fuck, I got a job, I have self-esteem, I can do something. Whoa. And then the men come back shell-shocked, but we can't have them think about that. So now we sell the American dream with our pistachio house, our peach house. For some, the other part is the American nightmare. But what's on screen is the white American dream. And what that is every woman being Leave It to Beaver, vacuuming. So they're handing out black beauties, like pure speed, left and right for the doctors, for these poor women that like knew what it was like outside their gilded or their cage. And now all of a sudden they're back just vacuuming on meth furiously, right? It's like, it is their involvement in it goes beyond even just military. It's psychological, it's sociological, and it's part of the control.
So, Rose, I'm a big fan of your career, but are there any projects that you look back on and think, you know what, really fondly? Or are there anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I look fondly on Charmed in a weird, it was tough for me personally, but still, I did my fucking job, and a lot of people love that show, and I love their love for it, and I respect the hell out of them. And we worked, all of us, very, very hard to make people believe, I guess, that they have magic in them too, and I'm proud of, a movie I did called Planet Terror, which really was, in fact, that true description. Behind the scenes, but on screen, people are like, wow, you look like you had a blast making that movie. Do you think? I am incredibly proud of that. I'm incredibly proud of everybody who survives a bad situation that doesn't have to be bad, where there's abuse that doesn't have to be there, and where it's systemic and everyone supports it and sticks their head down and just, keeps about their own business, but lets people be abused. I'm proud of anything that, even things where I was miscast or not right in, because we tried and I did my best, but it is really, and brave. I write, I write it from the perspective of a product, and I say, what if the cigarette could talk? What if the product could tell you every chemical that's in it? This is not a tell-all. This is a tell it how it is. And I make the case about the cult I grew up in versus in the cult of thought about Hollywood, media, nationalism, and the support of a structure that is fundamentally terrorizing its citizens and globally. In Mexico where I live, I have relief from the ground zero of being in the U.S. and that like constant, it's a very stressful frequency. For some, even way more than others. For me, it was always, I just didn't, I love the land. I feel like committed near genocide for it. You owe it to the world to be better and to your citizens. Fact. You built your White House off the back of slaves, burn it down. There's not enough sage in the fucking world. That's my thought on that.
Agreed. Cosign.
I mean, how much sage do you need for that history? Cosign. Bouncing around. But I do have to go. I'm using But it's been lovely talking.
yes.
And what I love, Katie, is that you did put, and I don't know if you've seen it because you've been on there. You tweeted, "We're going to talk about feminism." I'm like, no, we're not.
Oh yeah, didn't I update it? I think I made it.
I don't know if you updated it. I
said
always
we talked
feel
about
like
yeah.
if I said to you, Leslie Lee and Katie, "Hey, let's go have a deep conversation about feminism. You want to come over?" What's your first reaction?
With you, yes.
With you,
Nah.
yes.
Oh,
But most people, average person,
yeah.
regular
I
pilot.
want to run, and I'm not saying it was not vital and necessary, but I think there's a point where the word has been so tarnished by media, by MSM, by by the vilification, so weaponized, and sometimes themselves weaponizing themselves. And for me, so I said, let's talk about humanism. So I'll leave with that. For me, I think one of the great solutions is, in fact, deprogramming from our traditional systemic cult-like thinking. And if we instead go back and go forward into micro-labeling and labels in general, I feel like, honestly, I wasn't there when they voted to call me a girl or a woman. Like, I don't resonate. Non-binary doesn't resonate. Nothing resonates with me except for maybe human, maybe 3% alien thrown in. I'm not sure. But I think if we can back up to understand that we are humans first, that we can achieve common ground. And we could really have, if I said, hey, you want to come over and talk about being a human for 30 minutes?
Oh, that's more interesting.
Even better than the feminism invite.
There you go. Yeah. All right, my loves.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Third of Massachusetts, and you, Katie.
That's MA.
It's a master's.
Oh shit!
Master's. Yeah.
I just got my master's.
He's
good
from the
for you.
South.
Oh,
better than Massachusetts.
Yeah, way better. He's not a masshole.
Wow, my God, some asshole in Massachusetts. Oh yeah, he was on that '70s show, and I said, "Oh, you're from Darien, Connecticut." Oh, Darien. So, but that's not Massachusetts. I thought, or is Darien in Massachusetts?
No, I don't think so. But they're right next to each other, Connecticut and Massachusetts. There's a Danbury. I know Danbury is also Connecticut, right? Danbury, yeah.
Okay. Enjoy your night. Weird ending thing for me, but hey, I tried.
You.
Well, no. We'll go at it with a bang and say, Rose. Let's say, I just want a final thing. Let's see. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for showing people that you can call out the Democrats without being a Trumpian, and
without being anybody in.
Yeah, without being anybody in, and. Yeah, thanks for calling out as a cult survivor. You have cult dar. You have good cult dar.
I have a quadruple PhD in that.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky that way.
Oh.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me be me. And I know it might be slightly odd to some people, and you're probably not used to listening to people that were in Hollywood or on the screen or that you watched talking this way. I can understand how that would be weird to a viewer, but well, that's why I didn't want to talk through a script anymore. I was like, I just want to have a conversation with the world, so let's talk.
Yeah, people really like it.
And my podcast, The Brave Truth, is coming out. It's either May 20th or 26th. I'll get back to you on that one. Yeah. But yeah, in about 3 weeks, and I'm going to sell my first NFT. And I've been working on art for the last 7-8 years and amassed quite a visual collection. I come from film, and I do love film. And I want to say that there are very respectable things about it. But we all know the truth, it's time to acknowledge that it's Thursday. All right. Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you. You too. Wow. Very, very good guest. Very, very good chat.
On camera.
Oh yeah. Well, I can. I hate removing people, so you can sign out yourself. Wow.
Bye. How do I do this?
I'll do it.
Studio.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. Yeah. So Leslie, you're glowing?
Yes, I'm glowing. I'm happy. Post Rose goes. Very happy to have that conversation. Absolutely amazing Katie Halper show as always. But tonight was just special. Yeah. Just special. The stars were out. Who's got a bigger stream than this going right now, huh?
I mean, yeah. You tell me. If anyone else is streaming now, I pity the fool.
That was great.
That was great.
Lots and lots of fun. Excited to see Rose's podcast come out, The Brave Truth, because obviously Rose gives no fucks. She is not holding back anything. So that's gonna be some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of tea being spilled.
Lots of spillage of
Be
tea.
sure to check that out.
Be sure. In fact, thank you, Brad. Everyone say hi to Brad. Brad, in addition to being just a great, extremely competent, I don't know why I said competent. That's so clinical. Very talented person. Also found Rose's podcast, which is already on Spreaker. Yeah. So there you go. Right? There you have it. What else? Yeah, my thing with the humanism, feminism thing is that I agree. Like, it's become so... That's why I kind of feel like the way to call... I don't know. Do we want to hold on to the term feminism? I feel like it's still useful.
I mean, but this is my view as an outsider, obviously.
Yeah,
but
sister outsider.
But you got you got to understand the brand is assailed from all sides. All right. So what Rose was mentioning, first of all, the negative perception of feminism, how people talked about feminism in the 80s, in the 90s, and the 2000s. Yeah. That's one aspect. Then you had, all right, we like feminism now. Beyonce is a feminist. And now it's like a bunch of now there's a bunch of performative nonsense going by the label. So that's the other attack. So, and then you also had the more nuanced attack, the one that is actually nuanced, where black women are saying, black academics are saying that feminism was not inclusive in their intersection, right. And even some saying we're not going to use the word because of that, and you have womanism as that. So there's if I might say I have no place in this, that's just my assessment. That it's like there's these three attacks coming at the word, and then like how do you disentangle all that? So
there's like there's the Rush Limbaugh R.I.P.
attack,
the Rush Limbaugh attack, then the radical,
the corporate the co-optation of it,
right? Which is not an attack; it's an embrace. Which to us, because we know that's bullshit.
Yes.
It's like when an endorsement is a smear, or when a smear is an endorsement unintentionally. Yes. So you have the corporatization of it. You have the vilification from the right, and then you have the problematization of it, if you will, from people with whom you and I probably share a lot of political, probably are, political comrades.
Yeah, the last one is a fair point,
right?
It just is a fair point. So it's like what and it's just hard. It's just tough because it's obviously we still need feminism. Obviously, even like the Equal Rights Act. I mean, even it feels like, because the people who talk about, I think the problem was that just like it's the same issue where people are getting mad about how we talk about race, or this is what Kate. This is why we're even friends or even talk to each other. Really, that's how we got to know each other, because because of our identities, we care about this stuff. But we saw liberals co-opting it and doing platitudes and not really doing anything for women, not doing anything for black people. That's why we. That's why we, kind of started getting on this road together. So, obviously is a problem. You don't have, I guess when it comes to race, we don't have that one positive word that we're putting, like anti-racism, I think is one, but that's like a fairly new term, but you see it's already been co-opted. It's already been attacked, and it already has left critics, right? So it maybe there's no kind of ism that can survive. Maybe there's very few isms that can survive that, because anti-racism is not going to survive this.
Yeah, it's not a how would you say? Yeah, it's like, what, this really, we have to have another whole talk about this, but it does make me think about the CIA discussion, that you like the woke, it's like the Rush Limbaugh stuff. It's funny, when I was younger, the Rush Limbaugh stuff really made me double down on my feminism.
Yes.
And in a very personal way, I really identified with that, because it was a way to reject people telling you not to be a certain way, and there was something kind of inherently feminist at that point in my life about and I'm saying like middle school because I was an early feminist. I went to like a pro-choice rally when I was like 6. Kind of triggering to see the anti-choice signs. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty gruesome. Anyway, but hey, They didn't convince me. So it was like there was something feminist in rejecting the pressure to like be, to shut up about gender stuff. Because I was, I don't know if we've talked about this. You'd like this because of your pop culture stuff, but I was like, when I was younger, I would watch musicals and black and white movies, not cartoons. And I like remember telling my babysitter that certain movies were like prejudiced against black people and women.
Oh.
And my parents like, and I remember my babysitter was like, yeah, it is sexist. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Okay, that's the word to use. But I would do that. I remember there was like a Cindy Crawford. I don't know if you remember this. There was a Cindy Crawford commercial for like Diet Coke. And you see her drinking it. And there are these 2 young guys looking at her very lustfully. And the song in the background, I think, is Just One Look. And I fell so hard in love with you. And I remember calling that sexist, right? And everyone was like, mad at me in my classroom, like in middle school, because I said it was sexist. And I remember my friend defending me, like, she has a right to her opinion. But then, like, growing up, you see, like, and that's a good place to start, like, as a little kid, like, understanding, like, you start locally, then you act globally. But if like with your personal stuff is the ceiling and not, is the ceiling instead of like the floor, that's when it's problematic. But that's when it starts sucking. And that's when that's feminism. That's like Hillary Clintonism. It's like this person's personal journey resonates with me.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like her journey resonates with me more than the lives of the women who make minimum wage, who she doesn't want to give a raise to.
Yeah.
Like that's the part that's dangerous and actually sexist ultimately.
Now, Katie, I did look something up.
Wow.
So the Pepsi commercial, right?
Oh, it was Pepsi?
The Pepsi commercial, let me see. Yeah, I think it was a Pepsi commercial. So it was Super Wet, 1992. Cindy Crawford does it. There's, about kids about 9, 10 looking longingly at her, as is the camera. Little younger Katie says that is sexist, all right? But then you fast forward to 2002.
Uh-oh.
Cindy Crawford does the commercial again, kind of flexing, saying, hey, yeah, I was,
Did I comment about this?
I was pretty young. I was pretty young at the time. But you know what? I still got it going on. And guess what? She goes back in her truck, and she's got 2 little boys of her own in the back. A little boy and a little girl, actually. Showing, I'm still with it. Still got it. And then in 2018, all these years later, they do have they have another one with her where she's saying, like, look, when I did this in 1992, you had to be this age, this weight, this, whatever, in order to be a commercial. Hey, I'm doing it, 30 years later, still going strong. So maybe over time, because of those critiques that you made, they have found a way to ultimately make this narrative, if not feminist, at least pushing back against some sexist narrative.
Ageism.
Yeah, at least pushing back against the ageist narrative there.
Yeah.
And also even that second commercial where she gets in the car and you see her 2 kids in the car, then that becomes like, hey, she has a life of her own. She has her own thing going on, all right? Now, it is kids,
right,
which is, but at least it's some implication of her having a life outside of being gazed upon. So perhaps they took maybe perhaps that person
kids
in your
and
classroom
cars and attractiveness. I don't like it.
I
don't like where that's going.
The commercial is very weird. Like, I don't know why they use like little boys to look hornily at a grown woman. And Cindy Crawford, she was young, but she's not someone who like looks like young. She looks like an adult, grown ass woman. I remember that commercial and being a little bit confused about it. I was about 10 at the time. I was like, what is going on? Because it's not like she looks like a teen, like a very
youthful, right? Yes.
Yeah, she looks. That's a grown woman.
Yeah, it's interesting, and then you have like people like Bell Hooks, right? Who obviously like understands the racism that went into official feminism, and
Yeah.
then but she owns that word, right? Like, sorry, I'm just going back to the question that
Yeah.
we were at
Yeah,
before.
she owns that word.
She
So
owns it, so that it's like it's kind of a choice. But and then right, then it becomes a semantics issue, right? Like, is Bell Hooksism, is that the real feminism? And Cheryl, what's her
say
name?
hello to
Lean in.
Kelly.
Hey, Kelly. It's like, is it Cheryl? Is it Bell Hooks? Is it Kelly? Is it what's her name? The Lean In Facebook woman?
Oh,
What the
is
hell's
it
her name?
Cheryl
Cheryl
Sandberg?
Sandberg, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, maybe now that is what feminism is, in quotes, right? Because it's become so weaponized as a tool of capitalism and capital. And on the interview that I did, that I released parts of, and I'll be releasing more of it with Rose already, the pre-taped, we talk about how, like, Hillary Clinton deals with double standards and sexism. And we don't have to pretend that's not true. But the question is, like, if you are a feminist, do you care more about that than, like, geopolitical issues that affect powerless women? Like, I think I understand the, like, eye rolling at, like, the way she'll be called a bitch for something that a man won't be called a bitch for. Like, I get it. That resonates with me. But that is not the political project I'm interested in. Like, I'm not going to write op-eds about her being called, cackling, or her cankles, or being called a bitch. Like, that's there. But, like, why the hell would I care about that as opposed to, again, the women in Honduras who were killed thanks to her not, like, responding to a coup.
Yeah, I mean, this was a big thing this is a game that they've been playing for a while, but Obama was very good at it. Like, when it became so much about how the conservatives personally disliked him, as opposed to anything he actually did as president. And yes, all of their attacks were racist. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, so what? He's still the most powerful man in the world and in charge of a white supremacist empire. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, first of all, he signed up for it. Second of all, even if I feel personally sorry for him, which I don't think Obama cares about this stuff out. Maybe Hillary Clinton cares. I'm not saying all powerful people don't care about, like, I don't think Obama cares about any conservative saying anything racist to him. I just don't think he's that type of person. I just don't think. I think he's.
Yes, I think he's, like, strategic. Like, he's, like, secure enough.
Yeah, he's secure enough. He's like, I mean, you saw that picture of him hanging out with Richard Branson, and Richard Branson put his head on me. If some white boy put their hands on me, I swear to God, like that. I swear to God, especially if it was Richard Branson, some millionaire. Oh, hell no. But Obama's just sitting there, cool, calm, collected. I would lose it. I would have lost.
You'd push him out of his plane. It's
but
a good thing he never tried that with you.
Obama secured the bag, I guess. So he's made different. He is made different. He was president. Oh, Susie thank you so much. Just a shout out to Margaret Kimberly, who is amazing.
Yeah.
Has been on Katie's show, has been on my show. Margaret Kimberly, one of the best, best people in the world.
Very fierce. That's
very
a great. I have to have her on with you. You haven't. Did you co-host? Were you a co-host when I had her on this time? Yeah, we got to have you on again.
But Margaret Kimberly, absolutely brilliant
and
fearless, hilarious, just absolutely stunning person. It's almost amazing. It's like, why isn't she on, like, TV running? Like, she should be our Oprah.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
I know, she's so amazing.
Blasted off the planet.
Margaret Kimberly, so amazing. If you have to unsub from Struggle Session to sub to Margaret Kimberly, you can do so. That's how amazing she is. Actually,
look at that. That is amazing. That is solidarity right there. Seriously, she wrote Prejudential, which is really good.
Yeah. It's such a good book and
so
such
good,
an easy read. Jack and I read it in one day. It'll give you all the ammo you ever need to talk about how awful the presidents are.
Right. Can I just claim? I don't want. I love connecting people, and I Wasn't I the person who put you and Margaret in touch? You and Jack and Margaret.
Yes,
and I was
you were the
gotta
one who
talk to
met.
her.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah, you and Katie does this all the time for us. Just we'll interview somebody, and then she'll be like, "Hey, you should have them on too," which is the opposite of
the way most people are.
What most people are, even naturally. It's like, no, if I have a guest on and then I see them on another show, I'm like, God damn it! Not really. You're not mad about it, but you want you don't want. But then, of course, when I'm doing guests, I'm always doing back to back stuff. You can't control it; it just happens.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. No, but
Katie's always like, no, you need to have them all. You need to have them on. That's great.
We have to have more solidarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. Let's see. Yes, bell hooks, anarcho-feminist, corporate Cheryl, Sanborn can lean in and kiss my glutes. Feminism for the 99% of manifesto. Yes, I had TT on. I can't remember her last name.
Yeah, I think we need is more leftist feminists.
I agree.
Speaking of, I think that's the real thing because I feel like most leftist feminists, as you said, Katie, have been focused on other issues, and even if when they're talking about specifically women issues, they kind of get drowned out by the liberal media, and even just what were women's issues in the 2016-2020 election. If you look at the media, the women's issues were whether or not we were going to vote where you're sexist if you vote for Bernie Sanders. That was the number one women's issue. From what I remember for the past 4 years, that was the number one women's, at least during the campaigns. That was the number one women's issue. Talked in the campaigns about how Bernie Bros. That was the number one woman's issue. So that's part of the problem. I think like why feminism doesn't seem to be on the radar. People aren't really talking about it because like it just like you are even talking about women in a serious way.
Right. Yeah. Oops, I didn't mean to silence that. Harshawala. Oh, I do want to have her on. I've heard great things about her. Wait, I put in her name though. Here. Sorry, 1 second. This is Titi Bhattacharya is someone who's a great. I had her on. I'll have her on again. She's a great guest, and she wrote Feminism. She's one of the writers of Feminism for the 99%. So do you want to talk about some of the other stories, Leslie? Like the Bernie thing and the I have a good Warren video.
Oh sure, let's get into the Warren thing. Let's see what the Warren thing is.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing about the Bernie thing, by the way, is that I very much relate to this. Well, let me here. Let's do. Can we do Bernie and then Warren?
Sure.
Okay. Don't worry. This isn't not an attack on Bernie. I have done that before, though. I want to be clear. I should get a lot of credit for that. Okay, 1 second. Never chug wine. Well, bad day that was. I don't know what that's a reference to. Okay, so let's see. What's the deal? Let's just get the Bernie thing out of the way. So people got mad, right? Because Bernie Sanders tweeted about Liz Cheney. Rep. Liz Cheney will likely be voted off the House Republican leadership. Her crime, acknowledging the reality that Trump lost the election. Okay, hold on. Let me just get this up here. Sometimes it's good to have a visual. All right, let's throw this thing up. Okay, so here's this thing that a lot of my good friends got mad at my allies and former guests of the show, and you got like Nick is a Fred Hampton leftist. I like him a lot. I got to have him on the show. So Bernie tweets, Rep. Liz Cheney will likely be voted off the House Republican leadership. Her crime, acknowledging the reality that Trump lost the election. The Republican Party is no longer a conservative party. It is an anti-democratic cult pushing the big lie and conspiracy theories. So people got really mad at him. Do you want to, because they thought it was in defense of Bernie Sanders. And then someone, threw back, which is funny, a tweet from Liz Cheney saying liberals like Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi are more committed to waging a war on fossil fuels than defending ISIS. She's such a piece of shit. No surprise, which is it, Liz? Which is it? Is he a liberal or a communist? Surely even you understand the difference between.
No, she does not. She absolutely does not.
So dumb.
She doesn't understand.
She looks like a chip. Like, I don't want to offend chipmunks, but she looks like some weird chipmunk, like and I don't want to. She looks like a mix between a Pomeranian fox, and a chipmunk. What do you think? Is that violence to those animals?
I don't see the animal look. I don't see the animal look.
No surprise, commie Bernie Sanders, who honeymooned in Soviet Union, is okay with U.S. getting attacked first. On a side note, he seems to have daddy issues with my daddy. All right. Do you really? Oh, and then because Bernie, all praise be upon him, tweeted, taking national security advice from a Cheney has already caused irreparable damage to our country. We don't need any more. Thanks. I don't know what that was in response to, but I'm sure something that Liz Cheney
it was probably something she said. Actually.
Yeah, right. I mean, you should have issues with your daddy, by the way. You should have issues with him because he's a monster. You do have issues, even if you don't know about them. And your sister should have issues, though. I guess she's okay with it because he came out for marriage equality, like because he has a daughter who's a lesbian.
Yes.
So, and she clearly, but he's not like an anti-homophobe. He just was like against making changing the Constitution so it banned that. But his president, for whom he served as vice president, wanted to do that. Remember, he got so much credit for that.
Yeah, they acted like he was like, but people they still call them like compassionate conservatives when it was extremely homophobic.
Yeah, and she just cared about her tax bracket. The daughter, she didn't give a shit. And then drives me crazy. Who was it? Was it John Edwards? Who mentioned that his daughter is a lesbian. Now, I get that's politically unwise, but there's nothing unfair about saying, like, your president thinks that your daughter's way of life, like that your daughter's way of life should be, that the Constitution should be changed to stop your daughter's right to get married, right? Like, that's totally fair. You're just calling out hypocrisy.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
But because the media is so stupid, everyone was like, that was terrible.
Yeah.
How dare he?
How dare he talk about his child who was like 40, 40,
yeah. And also, what's wrong with you if you think it's offensive and problematic to talk about, like, she's out of the closet. She's openly, like, she is gay. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that you're a hypocrite, right? Yes. So... But of course, that should be no surprise. Anyway, so, all right, he'd said that. And then Rep. Liz Cheney. Oh, Rep. Liz Cheney, daughter of Dick Cheney, yesterday attacked the fraud of socialism. Really? I wasn't aware that it was socialism that lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and got us into a horrific war that we should never have started. And then... wrap it up with Rep. Liz Cheney will likely be voted off the House Republican leadership, a crime acknowledging the reality that Trump lost the election. The Republican Party is no longer a conservative party. It is an anti-democratic cult pushing the big lie and conspiracy theories. Okay. Here's my thing. You can do all of that. I think you can do all of those things at the same time. You can, acknowledge that as he did, that she's a terrible person who is genetically predisposed to be a terrible person, comes from a family of terrible people, and you can acknowledge that it's weird and like that I don't know.
Well, I think the problem is there's nothing weird about it. It's a goofy tweet. It doesn't make any sense. Of course, the Republicans would do that. Of course, they would turn that's what a actual political party is. Maybe Bernie doesn't know because he's an independent.
He's not even a Democrat.
Yeah, he's not even a Democrat, and he only looks at the Democrats, so he doesn't know how an actual political party works. But if you turn on the leader, then you're punished for that. That's what a political party is. So it's a goofy tweet, like just on his face. It doesn't make why would you even say that? Why would you go out of your way to say that as a defense of someone who's calling you a commie? And what is the point of that? Like. The GOP is, in any sensible sense, like from their rational standpoint, they're not doing anything wrong or anything the Democrats shouldn't do.
Right. You're saying they have the party discipline that the Dems lack.
Yeah, it's just party discipline. Like I don't even understand. Like why would you chastise them for that?
Because I guess I do think there's a difference. Like, and we could argue about the significance of the difference, the moral difference, but I do think there's a difference between like the Cheneys, who are radical. The problem is when people portray like neocons as not radical, right? Which some people do. They present them as the sensible ones, and we all know that Bush has more blood on his hands than Trump.
They're the most radical ones.
Right.
They're the worst. They're the worst of the worst. Dick Cheney is the worst of the worst, and Liz Cheney is also the worst of the worst. So I just don't understand. Like, and yeah, so that's another problem with this aspect, that you're framing Liz Cheney as reasonable and not part of a death cult who pushed conspiracy theories that led us to a war.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's not even like, the problem wasn't that it led us to a war. Is that we killed 1 million people in Iraq because of the conspiracy theories that the Cheneys peddled. So the Republican Party is no longer a conservative party. Doesn't make any sense. We've dragged people for saying stuff like that before. So I there's no line in this tweet that's true, that makes sense. And it's also like, what is the point of even saying it? You can't help Liz Cheney. It's like, I don't know. It seems a very low effort, low thought tweet from top to bottom.
Wow,
so
you really tricked me. I thought I thought we saw eye to eye on this one.
Oh,
it's okay. We're allowed to differ.
Yeah. I think it's a bad tweet just on his face. Forget if Bernie said it,
Right.
Forget even dragging the person who said it. I'm just saying on an objective level, just the tweet. I'm just judging the tweet.
Sure.
Awful tweet on its face. And then when you get the larger context where she's calling him a commie and who Liz Cheney is specifically, like, just not a good tweet. But I'm just saying it's not a good tweet. I'm not saying
You're not saying cancel him.
Yeah, we don't have to cancel.
I guess
Bernie.
I do think that there's a difference between the Cheney type of Republican and the like this kind of Republican. Hold on, let me just show you this. We're gonna go to another little videotape. I always think that Case Study, I can never remember Case Study QB. I can never remember his name, his handle. And I was just like, what's his name? Talking Points QB Talking Points. Hold on. But hold on. Let's look at this guy. What's his name? McCarthy? Okay, this is kind of funny. All right. So I do think there's a difference. Now, I think that we shouldn't normalize either one, and they're dangerous in different ways. And one of the nice things, in a way, about Trump is his lack of his, like, performative what's the word? His performative and aesthetic departure from the norms. It's, in some ways, it's helpful because it's so, like, on its face, like, absurd. Okay, one second. Hold on. Okay, did I share the audio? You got to tell me if there's audio here.
No, I'm not hearing it.
But I didn't turn it on yet. Hold on. Tell me if it's now.
No.
All right.
Some people here are...
Yeah?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. This is kind of funny.
Is McCarthy in danger of losing his integrity among his core supporters? Bertha and Delmar Bullion see no problem.
So Donald Trump has said the election was stolen. Yes. And your congressman, McCarthy, has not said, no, Mr. Trump, it hasn't been stolen. He's kind of gone along with it. How do you feel about that?
I feel it was stolen.
You do?
Yes. I do.
But there's no proof of that.
Well,
zero. All the judges have said it's not true, including Republicans.
Yeah.
But there isn't. Is there proof of it?
I have real suspicions based on evidence that we've come across.
What's the evidence, if you don't mind me asking respectfully?
Well, I mind you asking.
You do mind me asking?
Yes.
I'm being respectful.
Yes, you are.
But you don't want to tell me.
No.
Some people here are distrustful of the news media and don't want to answer questions.
All right, that's not. I'm going to be real. I thought Kevin McCarthy said that, which would made it funnier. You see how honest I am? I could have pretended that I knew those old people had just said that. I thought it was Kevin McCarthy. Can we laugh at that, or is that like, are we falling for like lib MSNBC politics?
It feels very,
right?
very.
It does, right?
All man on the street stuff is. All man on the street is that. All kayfabe.
It's a little bit funny though. You have to admit. Like, I do mind you asking.
Yeah. She's funny. She's funny. She's entertaining.
Right. Hold on one second. Okay. So anyway, the reason I'm kind of sympathetic to Bernie Sanders is because I did something, and I think you're going to be interested in this from a moral perspective, which is that I played a clip of a bad man, the president of Azerbaijan, and I'm a supporter of Armenia, not just because I really love and respect James Adomian, but I don't like what Azerbaijan does to Armenians, and the guy's, he's not good, the president, okay?
Yeah.
But this was a kind of cool clip I just want to share. Then you'll see why I relate it to this Bernie discussion. Okay, 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. Okay, so now, to be fair, this is a guy who's not good on human rights or free press. Not in support of this guy, the president of Azerbaijan. And the tweet I retweeted was from someone who said the BBC hadn't prepared for this moment and it was beautiful, okay? Then I said, how did this footage survive? So let's watch the footage, and then you'll see why some people were mad.
There have been no restrictions. And the number of internet users in Azerbaijan is more than 80%. Can you imagine the restriction of media in a country where internet is free, there is no censorship, and there are 80% of internet users? We have millions of people on Facebook. How can you say that we don't have free media? This is, again, a biased approach. This is an attempt to create a perception in Western audience about Azerbaijan. We have opposition, we have NGOs, we have free political activity, we have free media, we have freedom of speech. But if you raise this question, can I ask you also one? How do you assess what happened to Mr. Assange? Is it a reflection of free media in your country?
We're not here to discuss
no,
my
let's
country.
Discuss.
No,
let's discuss.
No, President
In order
Aliyev.
to accuse me, saying that Armenians will not have free media here, let's talk about Assange. How many years he spent in Ecuadorian embassy? And for what? And where is he now? For journalistic activity. You kept that person hostage.
He has dictator stance. He's man-spreading.
Morally and physically.
Dictator spreading.
You did it, not us, and now he's in prison. So you have no moral right to talk about free media when you do these things.
Returning to the conflict, how long...
better return to the conflict, because this is not what you like. You like only to accuse, only to attack. But look at the mirror.
Kind of
look, I tell many times, before coming and lecturing us, and in your question, accusing me, it's not a question, it's accusation. You talk like a prosecutor. Why? If you're so democratic and so objective, why you keep Assange in prison? For what? You keep him in prison because of his journalistic activity.
I'm not keeping him in prison, President Aliyev. But
you don't like this.
It's not a question of don't like.
You are not used to this.
It's not the subject of our interview.
Only to attack.
It's not the subject of our interview. And with respect, President Aliyev...
It is not the subject of interview, but you raise it.
You raised it.
No, you raised it.
You raised the case
of
Assange.
You said Armenians, if you don't have a free media in your country...
So I tweeted it out. I got some pushback, which I totally took responsibility for. Because I didn't want... It's true. My tweeting that out can imply that I co-signed this guy in general, right? So then I tweeted out, I don't support him. You know, he does, he's not a good guy. And I basically, I linked to the James Adomian interview I did, which is about what Azerbaijan has done to Armenia. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not an expert in that area. And I do what a lot of people do and don't admit to, which is I farm out. I just farm it out. I see what people who I trust, who have good politics, say. I look into it a little bit, but I don't know all the ins and outs of Azerbaijan and Armenia. So I asked some people. I asked Yasha Levine, whose takes I really like. Yasha Levine has a great sense of history and politics. He's a sniper. I don't mean snipe like shoots. I mean, he snipes at people all the time. It's a little awkward, but I trust him. So I asked some other people. So basically, I don't like this guy, okay? But he makes a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to Assange makes good points. I mean, not Sanja. I mean,
I was like,
Assad,
Yeah.
similar to Assad when he does the interviews. Just any of these guys, even the ones who might actually be as bad as America claims, or Britain claims, even if they're as bad, they're going to be able to speak some truths about the
Right.
coverage, and because as like we talked earlier, it's like, what do you call a regime versus what you call a country? Who who do you name name the leader, or do you say presidents of this country, or leadership, or a party? Like there's these all the way we talk about these different countries. Like, it's not. I mean, just because he's a horrible person doesn't mean that clip doesn't have value.
Yeah.
Aside from that,
Right. And it's also like, look, if you care about calling out human rights violations and lack of freedom of the press, then you should be aware of how this stuff will get used against you. You know what I mean? Like, this should make the Americans who support Armenians and support dissidents in Azerbaijan want all the more for the U.S. to clean its act up.
Yeah,
because
you got yes and these.
Exactly.
You got yes and
right.
This one.
So then some guy was mad at me and mad at me for platforming the president of Azerbaijan, and I was like,
think that's how that works.
Do you think that I, a citizen of another country, who look, the Katie Halper show is really growing, but it's not president level, right? Yeah. I don't have my own escorts. I probably need it, honestly, at this point. I'm being very reckless by not having a whole security detail. But that's another point. But, I thought that was the dumbest. People need... I think 99% of the time that people use the word platforming, they should not. They just are saying something stupid. And, I can't imagine a dumber take than you actually, just tweeting about someone who is president.
Yes. Well, I mean... He's president of. I mean, people said this about tweeting about Trump too, right? People actually said that people need to stop. They didn't say platformers. They said stop normalizing Trump, which basically means the same thing, right? Stop taking it seriously. Stop. I don't know. Stop engaging with it. Pretend. I don't know what they ever actually mean.
Yeah, because if we turn around. Right. I mean, there's a difference between unearned free media that he definitely got.
Yeah,
but that's different from.
Yeah, that's different. Once he becomes president, then it's then it's not unearned.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, so anyway, that annoyed me. And the reason I bring that up, I guess, is because I felt like I was being a little Bernie Sanders-ian there. I didn't think it at the time. But the idea that we can hold two ideas in our heads at the same time. Liz Cheney, bad. Republicans, weird. This strain of republicanism, weird.
I think the problem is that actually the strain of republicanism is a lot better and more normal than the strain of Liz Cheney. We would be better off if people I don't know, maybe if not America, but the world would probably be better off if we were ran by Trump cultists who just wanted Trump in power than if we were ran when we were run under. I mean, we already have to test it. Bush was a worse president, more destructive president than Donald Trump. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's if we have to choose one, I'm still choosing the Trump people than the Cheneys.
They're funnier too.
Yeah,
way
they're
funnier.
funnier too, less organized, therefore less destructive. Absolutely horrible. But if you have to pick one or the other, I don't know how you say that someone like Liz Cheney is literally the worst.
Right.
Does anyone think we would be in less wars?
You mean not the worst?
Yeah, I mean, oh no, she's one of the worst. I think. I think she's one of the.
Oh, I thought you were saying don't. Sorry, I ignore me.
Yeah, I think Liz Cheney is one of the worst. If we, I mean, does anyone think we'd be in less wars if people like Liz Cheney had Trump's ear? I don't think anyone thinks that. Does anybody think the world would have been a better place if Donald Trump listened to Liz Cheney more? Will a single human being on the planet say that? I don't. Other than Liz and Dick Cheney, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's so what? So what are you even saying? Yeah, the Trumpers are weirder and grosser and more annoying, But the Cheneys, they have shown, first of all, they will work with weird, gross, annoying people, as the Bush administration did. They had they had the proto Tea Party stuff during the
Right.
but like all the people have just memory hold like the cultural aspects of George W. Bush. He was a far right Christian, born again
Yes.
conservative,
Of
and
course,
shoved it in our face constantly. It's so funny that every time people talk about that era, all they talk about is being annoyed by atheists without realizing how big and how influential Bush's Christian fundamentalism is, and that's far worse and more destructive than I think Trumpism, and it's still around. And I think we might be in line for some more of it. But the Bush, like people just don't remember any of the culture around Bush for some reason, which is bizarre because he has this reputation of being. He has more of the reputation of his father, where his father was more like a straight down like a taxes and less taxes, more freedom for business conservative.
Right.
George W. Bush was cultural. He was about guns, God, and government. That was guns, God, and small government. Unless we're doing it overseas, then we do it big. That I don't know how we got confused about that. Like he was like a stupid hick who was like he was the first Trump. I don't know how we've. And Dick Cheney, people
Also very entertaining, kind of like Trump.
I actually never. Trump is way funnier than George W. Bush. I'm sorry.
Trump. Come on, food is where. What is it? Food is where the family finds hope. Family is where the wings take hope. Food is. I know how hard it is for you to put food on your family. I mean, little turns of phrase that weren't cutesy. I'm not talking about him being cutesy.
Yeah, I never found it funny because he's just like dumb and doesn't know how to talk. Like Trump is actually like coming up with stuff and riffing and
he's
making
he's
little
like a
jokes.
stand-up comedian rapper. He's
and like
could be
entertaining himself too while
Yeah.
he's talking. Whereas George W. Bush barely seems to know like what he's so sure that he's going to entertain you. That's his focus, and it's just much more annoying in to see. Actually, I'll take
His dancing was funny though, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean he's Georgia. We don't talk enough about how evil the Bushes and the Cheneys are. I feel like that was my main takeaway. Even with when I saw that Rose was going to be on, I was looking at her IMDb and saw that she worked with De Palma, and then I looked at De Palma, and there's this movie he did called Redacted, which came out in 2007, and it was about the Iraq War, and it was incredibly controversial. People should look up this Wikipedia page. You won't even believe how controversial this movie that you never heard of, but by one of the most famous directors of all time. Like, why is this? We have forgotten about it? And that's because it's a faux documentary that is basically the retelling of a true story about a girl who was kidnapped and raped in Iraq by American soldiers, and it was the reviews.
An American girl or an Iraqi girl?
Iraqi girl in
yeah.
Iraq. Yeah, and it's called Redacted, but by De Palma, and it's, and the reviews on it are so angry. So angry at them for how there's almost like a how dare you make this movie about this thing that Americans actually did. Actually, this is based on a true story, and the reviews are all like, this is ridiculous. This isn't how soldiers are. How could you do this? People call the film itself a war crime. A film about war crimes, they called a war crime. Why? Because of the Bush culture. Because this was the culture that we lived under. So even this, legendary director, Brian De Palma, Scarface, of course, even him, he makes an anti-war movie, which by the way, was really a sequel, technically speaking, or a thematic follow-up to a movie called Casualties of War that starred Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn in 1989. And that was basically the same story. But he
where
just
did it take place? Casualties of War?
It was Vietnam, but it was Vietnam, and it was a few years. It was a decades after the fact. But De Palma makes this movie while the Iraq War is still going on, a year after the events he's basing it on, and he's attacked and pilloried. It's the same fucking movie. It's the same movie showing the same things, but by the late 90s, by the late 80s, we had gotten to the point where we could make a Vietnam movie. But I guess that means you won't be able to make an Iraq movie for a few years. I guess we'll never make an Afghanistan movie that actually talks about what's happening, because that war is never
stay there. Yeah,
that war is never ending. So that just absolutely baffled me that this movie, and De Palma is one of my favorite directors. I've never heard of it. Wasn't talked about, and like people were like. They were afraid that they were going to get sued for the movie. They were afraid they were going to get sued by like the perpetrators of the crime,
the killer, the rapists.
Yeah, like they were just
no. I mean, and I guess I want to be clear that I don't in any way think that like Cheney is less dangerous. The Cheneys are less dangerous than Trump. I totally agree with you on that. I just think there's this one weird thing, which is like, okay, like. Liz Cheney saying that she doesn't think the election was stolen is their line in the sand.
Yeah, I mean, is the line in the sand for the Trumpers, but it's like, well, it should be if you were like in the party, right?
I guess, yeah.
First of all, it's goofy, dim logic to think. Wait, so you're saying if the situation were reversed,
I wish the Dems would be like,
you wouldn't fight like hell. Well, then that just means you're a chump. Like,
I guess so.
I'm sorry. I know you're supposed to play by the rules, but this is politics. These are a bunch of people who order death strikes on children. So like, stop talking about the rules like they're real. Like we're talking about people who kill people all the time. Like this is like talking about the rules of like The Sopranos or something like that. You know, like it's so fucking silly. Like these are people who are signing off on mass death, day in, day out in the halls of Congress and the White House. So like, why are you talking about the rules? No, it's about power. It's the only thing that fucking matters. And not the Tea Party, but the Trumpers are exercising their power over Liz Cheney in much the same way the Democrats have repeatedly exercised their power on Bernie Sanders. So I guess maybe is that why he feels sympathy for her? I think we cracked the case. He feels sympathy for her because she is being treated exactly how he has been treated by the Democrats.
Wow,
so
I like that.
Actually, we can just pull back. We can forget maybe this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's just really just about Daddy Bernie's personal trauma. And he's just trying to work through that by reaching out to Liz Cheney, who has experienced a similar thing. And I won't judge him. He's going through it. So I'm not going to judge.
I like that, Leslie. That was amazing the way you did that. You really thread that needle. Want to take a quick question? Then we'll go to Warren. Anthony writes, Katie, what do you think of your co-host Matt comparing Russia Gators as recently as yesterday to 9/11 truthers? I don't know. I feel like the implicit question there is like, isn't that ridiculous? Is that
in which direction?
I know in which direction. Like,
some people. I mean, I'm sure there's some people on the show who consider themselves 9/11 truthers. So, I mean, I hate to offend y'all. And at the end of the day, it's like 9/11 truthers. Actually, probably not that harmful if all they're doing is saying that Bush and Cheney did some fucked up shit.
Right.
I mean, more people should be saying that. So, like,
also, they're the skeptics. Yeah, they're the skeptics.
Like
they're independent thinkers.
Yeah, that is right. That is different. That's different. It's very different, actually. Yeah, now that I think about it, they're the ones not believing. It's not like they have positive. They don't have a lot of positive claims that they're making. They're just saying, I don't believe these claims. So that is a different thing to say to be skeptical and be ultra skeptical. That's a different category than saying like, I know for a fact because someone on Twitter told me that Trump is going to be indicted for such and such crime with Russia. Yeah.
And
Russiagate was all positive claims.
None of which were proven. Yeah.
9/11 truthers are all skeptical claims, which have not been disproven. Yet.
And I get it. There's like a 9/11. Yeah.
I mean, because you can't really disprove skepticism. So they have an easier position to defend. But hey, you choose your positions if you want. If you're going to spend your life, I guess that is if you're going to dedicate your life to some kind of political conspiracy theory, make sure it's one that can never be like disproven. Always just be asking questions. Always just be skeptical. And yeah, so it says Geiger's 9/11 truthers lost their relatives in domestic terrorism. They can't ask questions. Like people talk like, yeah, there's people who, and actually,
there was a commission.
And Kay, I have to bring this back to true crime now. So there's a lot of, you see this when you're looking at true crime. Oftentimes there'll be a case where you have a victim, they're killed. The cops say this person did it. They may even have evidence a lot of times. And then the family of the victim will say, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe sometimes they'll believe it's something bigger, some other conspiracy. There may be some inconsistencies there. And a lot of times it just turns out to be true. It just turns out to be true that this person didn't do it. But there are cases where it's kind of clear cut who did it, and the victims and the surviving victims still don't really believe it, because I mean, in some way, because like, I mean, who can explain something like that? Like what explanation would ever be satisfactory? So like I don't see any reason to be mad at, generally speaking, people who are skeptical of 9/11. I don't go there, but it's not like. I don't think it's hard. I don't think it's necessarily like a bad thing, because I mean, even and the core element of it is true that the Bush administration did know, should have known something was going down.
Osama bin Laden prepared to attack the United States. It said something like that in the presidential
in a
daily
certain briefing, so it's not that loony to think that.
There were also all these other things that were irregular, like they didn't scramble the plane. Like there were all these other things that were very sketchy, and I think that certainly like questioning what happened, and they did such a good job of making you look insane. I'm not going to say I know what happened. I'm not going to say that it wasn't what the government actually said happened. I don't think it's insane to put. I would not put it past the government. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say.
How could you?
Yeah, I mean that ignores history. I think put it past them. Yeah,
I wouldn't put. You can't put it like you absolutely could not. You absolutely could not. They've done worse. They will do worse. They will do worse.
Whereas there's no I mean, what is the Russia stuff? Like, again, if anyone cares about collusion, the test is if you talk about Israelgate, okay, then maybe I'll listen to you on Russiagate. But no one I hear talk about Russiagate ever talks about the fact that the actual the earliest thing and the biggest thing that happened with the Trump administration and Russia was Michael Flynn asking the Russian ambassador to vote against a non-binding resolution condemning the Israeli settlements. And Putin did not vote against it. Does that make sense? It's a little confusing. Basically, on behalf of Jared Kushner, Michael Flynn was asking Russia to vote pro-Israel, not anti-Israel. And Vlad didn't do that, despite the fact that apparently he and Donald Trump are romantically involved. And there was just so much said. Even like my dad, got to even my dad, who's like a Bernie guy, because he watches my mom and I try to pull him away from Rachel Maddow. It's terrible what that can do. But happy 50th anniversary to Pentagon. So my point is that Russiagate people are conspiracy theorists. That they are. They're just conspiracy theorists who passively ingest MSNBC narratives, as opposed to truthers who question stuff. And anyway.
Well, somebody actually, thank you so much, Susie, for that reminder that the U.S. will fake a war if they need to.
You're right. Happy 50th anniversary, Pentagon Papers release. Happy 90th birthday, April 7th, to Daniel Ellsberg. 50 years ago, 7,000 war protesters arrested in D.C. And everyone should listen to the Daniel Ellsberg interview that Matt Taibbi and I did on Useful Idiots. And then circling back, so true, Leslie, but I still judge him. Who, Matt Taibbi?
I think maybe Bernie.
Bernie. Got it, yeah. And then let's just the last thing I want to do is, as promised, let's take a look at next time on the next show that we do together, Leslie, I'll read Cheney's Sisters, okay? But for this one, we got to go out with Warren.
Okay.
Because you and I have a special appreciation for her. Okay, let's go back to QB. What the hell is his name? I can never remember it. There are a couple of things I can't ever remember. Do you guys remember what that is? What's that food I can never remember? Anyone?
You can never remember the food?
Yeah, certain food that I really like. It was you weren't on this episode. It was an
Oh.
episode with Jamie Peck. It's a really good vegetable. Hold on. Then I'll show you. I got my
Squash.
Brussels sprouts. So
Brussels
good.
sprouts. Oh, yeah, they're pretty good.
They're so good. You chop them up. Okay, 1 second. Let me just find this. Where's the Warren thing? Where she's asked. Isn't there a more recent thing where? Hold on, sorry. Anyone have the thing where there's something where she says her evaluation in my view he's doing what he told us he would do, but there's another one where she says something about not asking again. All right, that was very very anticlimactic. We'll go out with hold on if I can't see that one.
Oh, I did want to mention, someone mentioned that conspiracy theorist is actually a term that may have itself
Brad
been put out.
mentioned that, right?
Yeah, by the CIA in order to quash talk about JFK. I'll say this right now. I know for a fact that the U.S. government killed JFK because otherwise we would have gone to war with Russia for sending a secret Russian agent, which if you look at Oswald's biography, I actually did not realize this, even though I saw JFK a bunch of times. I guess I saw it when I was younger, before I knew more about how the Cold War and how intense it was. There was no way we wouldn't immediately have been over to Russia because, my God, they sent a brainwashed secret agent to come and kill the president. And then we just cool. We don't care about that. No, it had to be the CIA.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
It had to be.
All right, I can't find this thing, and I put in Warren fight video, and all these things about a boxer are coming up. So, if anyone knows, let's see, hold on, anything in the private chat? Anyone know? No. Okay. Well, that was anticlimactic, and I'm sorry. But I will. Instead of that, I'll show you. How about this? Speaking of the CIA and Kennedy, how about this? We're gonna watch this video, which is just as fun. And doesn't require a trigger warning the way that watching Warren does. Because she's just such a disappointment. I don't know. Is she a disappointment? That implies I had some hopes for her. As the first woman of color law professor at Harvard, I thought she would break more boundaries. But what are you going to do? Hold on.
Oh, so Butterfat mentioned the Bill Hicks special screening for new presidents.
What's that?
Where they send them in a room and show a new president a video of JFK getting his head.
Oh.
This is what's going to happen if you don't play by the rules.
Okay. I don't dismiss people who used to be conservatives though. Anyway, but she's just not good. Okay. So here's a great clip from MSNBC of Senator Mark Warner and Marco Rubio. And it's always good when you're in lockstep with Marco Rubio. Neera Tanden was too. All right. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Intrigued by a joint statement that you and Marco Rubio put out. And it has to do with these direct energy attacks on U.S. embassy personnel, mostly in Cuba, but in other spots. And here's what you write. As the chairman and vice chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, we welcome CIA Director Burns' renewed focus on these attacks. Our committee will continue to work with him and the rest of the intelligence community to better understand the technology behind the weapon responsible for these attacks. I am stopping right there, Senator Warner. This is the first time I have seen any government official under any say with definitive certainty there that this was a weapon that did this. What is this weapon?
Well, Chuck, this is an area where we are bumping against classified information, and I'm going to work with the intel community, and I give Director Burns great credit for putting this back as a primary focus. Because let's look, it's been 5 years since we've seen these incidents. We have a responsibility in 3 areas. One, to take care of the folks, Intel community, DoD community, State Department, that have been affected with serious, in many cases, serious brain injuries. They need to be taken care of. Second, we need to do formal attribution about what country created these incidents. And then 3, as we said, these are attacks. We need to know what kind of technology or weapon they used. It is frankly embarrassing that we're 5 years in and we don't have more answers, and the number of individuals being affected is going up. So Marco and I, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to bring the same kind of bipartisan approach that Senate Intel Committee brings to every item. The good news is that we've got Director Burns, who's willing to take this on. And the good news is we have an administration, and I'm not saying who did this by any means. We've not made that formal attribution, but we've got an administration that's finally willing to call out Russia when it does bad things.
Wait, it's
well, I was just going to
Russia
say,
or Cuba or what?
Are you pretty confident? Is the Intel community confident that this was a nation state behind this?
They don't know.
I'm going to let the...
Okay, first of all, doesn't he look like the bad guy in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Burgess Meredith, I think, played him.
Oh,
all right. Well, okay, yeah.
But I'm looking at an article. So they claim that 40 U.S. government officials across multiple agencies were victims of debilitating attacks. And can anyone guess the 3 countries they named? 3 countries.
The 3 countries that did this
named.
allegedly?
Yes.
Cuba?
Yep.
Russia?
Yep.
China?
Yep. Got them all 3, Katie. Got all 3. The 3 commies, I guess. I guess they didn't get North Korea.
Yeah.
I guess they figured.
What about Iran?
There's nobody supposed to be in North Korea. So yeah, the 3 commies, the Cold War. So think the U.S. government. This is a senator. And you're talking about, and people are talking about 9/11 truthers or conspiracy theorists. This is a senator talking about targeted weapons attacks, not in one country, in multiple countries across the globe, against dozens of U.S. government officials. I don't think that's real. I don't think this is real. I don't think this is real.
Wow, they sound like fringe lunatics.
Are these the Jewish lasers that Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about? Because it seems very similar
adjacent,
to that. It seems at least adjacent. Like maybe they can team up on this. Could be it.
They could use the Jewish lasers to take them out.
We go to war, and we go to war over this stuff. We went to war with Iraq over stuff this credible. It's absolutely because of Liz Cheney's father, and she wanted to do it. She wants to do it again. If she had her druthers, she'd be doing it again.
We should be condemning the Republicans for not expelling Liz Cheney already.
Yes.
That's what we should be doing. Let's tweet that out. Okay, I just gotta show. Last thing I promise, but it wouldn't be prudent for me to not show this. We're talking about China. We're talking about enemies, and we gotta praise.
Oh yeah,
Queen, literal slay queen, because she has slayed a lot of people, right?
Yes.
All right, so hold on. All praise be upon her, Hillary Clinton. Ready? Whoops.
Such a continuing anxiety about upsetting the Chinese. And there are 2 big reasons for that. One, Henry Kissinger mentioned maybe some
Okay, first of all, I'm going to stop you right there. Never ground yourself in something Henry Kissinger said.
Especially when you precede that with unintentional consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
unintended consequence of war down the road somewhere, but also the economic issue. And here, it's time we recognize that we need to rebuild our own supply chains, even if that requires a certain level of subsidized industrial productivity. We cannot be dependent on the Chinese market. It's not only bad for our economies, it is bad for our geopolitical strategic interests. Look at what happened with the lack of personal protective equipment. or certain pharmaceutical ingredients when
That's
the pandemic
China's
hit.
fault?
We were at the mercy of China. Well, we cannot let that continue, and we need to work together across the Atlantic to figure out how we're going to take back production. Now, will it be as low cost? Of course not. And how do we set our tax systems and other arrangements so that there are incentives for our businesses to return to Western democracies to produce things? And I would add that more and more businesses are seeing that unless they are low-cost producers of retail clothing, which probably will never come back for all the obvious reasons, but if they are producing anything more sophisticated, increasingly the Chinese government, through coercion, through unfair regulation, through enforced partnerships or royalty agreements, is slowly stealing that intellectual property anyway. So I do think that we've got to get smarter about how we deal with the economic threat. And for people who say, oh, well, that disrupts the market. China has disrupted the market. China is not a free market economy. We tried. We let them into the World Trade Organization. We sent our businesses over there. We made trade deals. They are a controlled top-down economy. You will never compete and win against them unless you take back the means of production.
Whoa. Hillary calls for taking back the means of production. I mean, this is a Marx heavy night. We got Mark Warner, Marco Rubio, Hillary talking about the means of production. Bunch of Marxists. Am I right? Yeah. But I mean, you're really going to talk about intellectual, like IP stuff.
I know, right?
During the pandemic, and you're really going to blame it on China that we didn't provide, PPE to people. Like, we should have been paying people to stay home. And you know what? Biden, everyone's celebrating this thing about Biden saying he was going to waive the patent for COVID temporarily. But it's not the thing that other countries are demanding. It's not what is it? It's like TRIP. I can't remember what TRIP stands for. But it's something, a trade. Does anyone know what it stands for? He's not agreeing to the TRIP deal. He's agreeing to a TRIP deal. So basically, they're starting over again. And I would recommend everyone listen to Citations Needed, the Citations Needed podcast. They did a great thing about this, which is let's wait and see what this Biden decision is, because it could turn into a Yemen war thing where the Bidens celebrated the fact that we were no longer supporting the Saudi Arabia in its war against Yemen, but we were. It was just the defensive war, not the offensive. Anyway, so the point is that we should wait and see what the details are with the Biden thing and the patent. And I think that's basically, I think that's it. What do you think? We did a great show, I think.
Yeah.
We learned about Colombia, Hollywood, Cheneywood, Azerbaijan. We lived, we loved, we learned, we lost. We cried.
We did it all on the
Katie
Halper
show. We did it all, yes. And so here's my prediction. Ready? That we're gonna, and we saw Rose. My prediction is that we're gonna see that the Biden thing isn't as good as it sounds. You, Leslie?
Sally, probably, most likely, yes.
Any other predictions you want to make or anything?
Oh, no.
You just leave people with?
Yeah, just check out Struggle Session, patreon.com, Struggle Session, or sesh.plus. Please check us out. Our show, we're going to be talking about Them with Brianna Joy Gray, T from Champagne Sharks, and on that, and that's coming out very soon tomorrow. Great. And remember, guys, China is not a free market, and that's why we got to shut them down. All right. Thank you. Please join the Patreon at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. That's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe on YouTube. Like the show. Share the show. Share the love. Rate and review the podcast. And we got a bunch of great shows coming up. And we will see you then. Also, make sure if you're a $5 Patreon member, you get to access the Discord, which people apparently really like. Bye, everyone.